used for planting. But what is not, the seed is not organically produced, like you see, like GMO. GMO is not encouraging as organic material seed for production. Next thing that you look at organic system, what is soil fertility management. How do you manage your soil fertility? Do you apply any harm material? We recommend here that any farmer that want to embark on soil fertility management should look at natural material like poultry manure, piggery manure that farmers are using, and the result are giving them as organic base. Next slide. How do you propagate your medicinal plants? Medicinal plants are propagated in two means: by seeds and also by stem cut. That's vegetative propagation is by stem cutting, while by sexual propagation is by using seed material. Like we're talking about seed material, like and seeds. The stem can propagate, the plant can propagate with seeds, at the same time with what? Stem. Next slide. The nursery operation. We don't know that nurseries practice the technical issue in organic farming practice, because most of farmers, nursery is like a nursery stage of any plant. It's like a baby, a newborn baby that born today. You need to pamper it and look after it day by day. Nurseries are raised for planting material purposes. The plant field develop in such a way as to able to endure hard feed condition. You allow your ceiling to set for some months, like when it is vegetable, you are allowed to stay from 6 weeks and above. But when is the thick crops, you are allowed to stay from 2 months and above, so that the plant can adapt to the feed condition. Because at that below 6 weeks, that means there'll be shock in the field. But once above 6 weeks, the plants have reached height of 15 cm. They mean that the plant can adapt to hard feed condition. No matter whether there's rain or no rain, plant can adapt it. That's for the nursery operation. Next slide. If establishing nursery sites, there will be a condition for you to have nursery sites. There will be water availability and good soil resources available. You don't collect any soil from anywhere. Sometimes if where you are doing nursery, if the soil is city soil, we encourage you to go to forest and collect soil sample. Because you don't need seeds, the seed soil to do nursery. That means good soil sources is available. Also, the site must be well drained. Where you are doing nursery, there must the particular site must be drained to avoid waterlogging. Because at that age, if there is a waterlogging in any nursery, the plant easily will not survive it. Next thing that we consider here is shelter against prevailing. You need to have a shade, so that the plant doesn't, the tree will not have direct sunlight. Site must have good access to. For a farmer that doing nursery business, he must have a good road to your site. Because if a buyer wants to buy, a buyer will not jump provex or pitch to your farm. There must access roads to your farm. Nursery site must have a label available. You don't need, because if you have a large nursery site, only one person cannot water it. You need to have a label available for watering are doing some activities in that site. Next slide. The nursery mixture or soilless mixture. Most of the farmers practice nursery soil mixture. Also, there is a new innovation and to prepare soil mixture now. You can have soilless mixture. Soil mixture is a mixture that have soil components. One soilless mixture is a mixture without soil. Like a soilless mixture, like a sawdust, rice husk, and some other material. Like an example now, it consists of mixture of one part sand, 1 part clay, 1 part animal manure, or mixture of animal manure or sawdust, rice husk, or only rice husk or rice husk, and it will be adequate in ratio. It can't mix up anyhow. You can use 1:1 as ratio as a mixture. Example, if I'm using soil mixture, I want to use manure, the clay soil, the loamy soil, and sandy soil, and sawdust. The ratio can be 1:1:2, or if I'm establishing another ratio, can be 3:2:1. That is the mixture of it you can use. Or the characteristics of this mixture, it must be light, cohesive, it must have a good water retention capacity, because sometimes you don't water it every day, because you water it 2 times a day, otherwise instead of having retention capacity. It must have a high organic content. Most farmers, they don't add manure to their nursery. That means when you take seedling from nursery to the field, it affects it. Because before you start adding manure to the field, if from the nutrients from the nursery will carry the seedling to the field and return some weeds before applying another external manure. Next slide. Soil treatments or soil mixture treatments, as some of them with fungi or nematodes. The soil soil mixture need to be treated before we embark on nursery operation. Like as example, if you are working in a lab, you can use autoclave or heating the soil. Farmers that live in the rural area who don't have machine to heat it or to treat, to sterilize the soil. You can use a container like a drum, put enough soil inside the drum and heat it with a good firewood. Once the soil is heated, that means the soil mixture have already sterilized. At the same time, soil irrigation also a treatment against fungi. You can apply neem extract, moringa extract, and androgephis extract to your mixture, so that you can control some fungal infection or nematodes infestation during the nursery. Filling the pot or nursery basket. After you have treated the soil, next thing you will do is, when we are planting in a basket or tray, or in a basket or that tray that with the plastic made up, we fill up the pot or the bags so that you can start planting. Next slide. The next slide is Treatment of seeds. How do you treat your seeds for planting it? Because some of the seeds may be in dormancy before planting it. To break the dormancy of any seeds, the seeds have to be treated. It can use many methods, like it can use mechanical method. Mechanical method is a small number of seeds can be scarified by scratching each seed with sandpaper. Like when I want to plant like some tree crop, like Garcinia seed. Garcinia seed, ordinary, it takes 90 days to germinate, but it can break the dormancy by using this method or using a good media so that the treatment, so that the seed dormancy can break. If seed will germinate within 90 days and within 2 weeks it germinates, that means the seed has been treated. Next thing is soaking in the cold water. Like there's a work that I did last 2 months ago under Absitume. Absitume germinates within 4 to 5 days. But when you soak it in the water for 12 hours, it germinates within 1 day. It ensures that with treatment of seed in the cold water, it can break the seed dormancy. You show that water soaking have an effect to break the seed dormancy. Next one is soaking in the hot water can also help to break seed dormancy. It's so that the seed coat can easily remove, and also so that the seed can easily absorb water. When it absorbs water, the dormancy can break. Next slide. The sowing of seeds. Most people sow seeds anyhow. Some can bury seeds. Like an example now, when you didn't sow a seed very well, you don't expect good germination. Like type of sowing. Do you sow in a container or beds or boxes? Seed can be sown with cutting. It can process seeds. Some people normally, when they process seeds, they will use like a vegetable seeds, like oatmeal or agricultural seeds. When it sow the processed seeds, I use a heavy topsoil to cover it. It can make that seed to be in dormancy for most before it germinates. Type of sowing is a factor. Or if you are planting seeds like Garcinia as an example now, there's a method now that my friend working in a research in Nigeria, that shows that within 2 weeks, Garcinia seed can germinate within 2 weeks by using a chamber where there is a heat 24 hours, except in the night. Once the temperature is very high, it can improve the seed germination of what? Garcinia. The type of, that's nice, if you look at it, is depth of sowing. Seed are sown at depth of 1 to 3 times their diameters. That's for 1 cm to 3 cm. You don't bury seeds inside the soil and expect that seeds are made within 5 days. I do sowing time. If you want to establish your farm around February, you should look at the time. Like I said, that vegetable plants like ocean, it can do for transplanting within 6 weeks. You should look at the period, time for doing nursery, so that your nursery will not waste in nursery sites. That thing that we should look at here is watering in nursery. Some people can pour water direct without using appropriate instruments. You need to look for a fine nursery tray or container, like a watering can. The nozzle is fine. When you use a fine nozzle spray, if the plant germinated, the water cannot kill it. But most of the time, there's a way you water your nostril, it will damage it at that age because the stem is not strong to resist that heavy water. Like example now, if you are doing nothing during rainy season and not under a roof, the rainfall can damage your nursery. Don't say that the rain, I decide to establish your nursery, then open field. The nursery should be under a roof where the rainfall will not affect it. So that you can use your hands as a farmer, as a scientist, to water it so that you don't lose your seedling after the nursery. That's that. After watering, next activity you should look at is picking up the seedling. If the seedling you prospected is crowded, you need to do what? Pick and supply. That's thinning and supply. The excess, the focal place, the one that's excess, too much, should remove and plant in close by focal space so that the seedling will not compete each other in terms of growth. But when it's competing, the seedling will not grow. Not grow like seedling. It affects the growth of seedling. That means that we're encouraged that after your nursery, if you took clustered, you need to thin it out and supply, or create another meter and do what? Supply. Next thing here is care of nursery stock. In any nursery establishment or in any farm, weeding is a factor. When you don't weed your farm or your nursery, weed will likely compete with the nutrients and water. Because in that is there, you prepare. Money is there. If you allow weed to grow out there, that means it affects your nursery growth and development at the same time. If you're supposed to take to the field in the next 6 weeks and it's there, it's going to affect it. Next one is root pruning. If you use a bag or basket for 3 crops that grow, the roots will grow before because some 3 crops we say for 3 to 4 months before transplanting to the field. It can prune the root so that the root will not be moving out from the bag, so that the seedling will have will remain, the taproot will remain. So that affects the taproot. Next thing is hardening up. Most farmers don't do this practice. Before you do a planting, maybe the plant is 6 weeks and they want to transplant in the next 2 weeks. You need to harden your seedling for 2 weeks. Like an example now, if we did not during dry season and they want to do hardening and have a shade, what we do is remove some palm frond or the protein bag for the roof, or take in the morning time, if the seedling is in basket, we take the basket outside where there's a sun, some hours, take it inside. When you do it within 2 weeks of that you want to do planting, the plant will be hardening. You can resist when the seedling take to the field, it can adapt to the environment without having any shock. Next slide. Next slide is, in all this I said, how do you conserve your medicinal plants after all this you have produced, have done this, you have done this or this thing. Now, most people in the rural areas, they always destroy some habitats. That means degradation and destruction of habitats is a major cause of loss of medicinal plants. That the method you can conserve it is through national reserve. National reserve are protected area of important wild resources created to preserve and restore biodiversity. You need to have natural reserve. There's some forests you don't cut trees anyhow. In some because some of the herbalists, there's a place they used to collect their material. They ban people entering there for cutting any firewood so that they can preserve the natural reserve. They can preserve the material in that place. So that when they want the material for the production, they can easily go there and get it. Next way of conserving it is through traditional methods of conserving the plant. Now, in some villages, they won't go to forests, harvest firewood, but once they're banned for entering those places, it means that there'll be there'll be available material for the plant. Next one you should look at is Transplanting techniques. Like sometimes now, some seeds are scarce. If somebody have a transplanter where you can an area of plants, where you have a different seed plant, purposely for what? Seed production. Because some farmers they produce material without seeds. That means that if you want to conserve medicinal plants, you need to have a jam plaza where you can cultivate and a field where you can collect material, not mostly for leaf purposes, if for seed material. Next one, if you look at here is botanic gardening. Like now, if you want to conserve medicinal plants, you need to have a garden within your area or environment, or close a farm where you can easily access or collect those materials. Next one is seed bank. In seed bank, like people in the West, they have seed bank where somebody can collect seeds or go to some institute and collect seeds for the material.
Mr. Ede, you might want to start rounding up. You have 5 minutes left.
The practice we are doing is a factor to conserve medicinal plants. Like if you have a domestic farm within your environment, you can easily collect medicinal plants. Next thing we should discuss is the
Chief Ojobo, excuse me. How person they fit use the earphone through?
I never use that one. I don't. Let's ask the student.
Two places when 3 places when they put here. No one they work.
Please always mute your mic when you are in this meeting so that you don't interfere with the speaker or stop people from hearing the presentation. Thank you very much.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. The next way to conserve medicinal plant is having a good agricultural practice. That we are mentioning that most of the material for medicinal plant we are getting from the forest. Somebody can practice a good practice like using organic method for the production, so that we will not have differences without whether the material is natural or artificial. Because most vegetable crop we are using now, some people use artificial material for production, but what we are using, we are to use natural manure for the production. We should get a good conservation of medicinal plants.
Mr. Ede, you have 1 minute left.
Thanks for listening. This is the end of the.
Wow. Thank you very much. Many thanks, Mr. Ede, for this wonderful presentation filled with value and keeping to time. We are going to allow 10 minutes for question and answer. If you have a question, you write it in the chat session so that I will read it out and Mr. Ede will be here to answer you. 10 minutes for question and answer. Anybody with question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear you.
For the Herbal, I'm by name Chima Chidera. For the Herbal pictures I got from my email, where is the location of the company?
All right, ma'am, thank you very much for your question. We will get back to you through your email because today is basically for training of organic cultivation of organic plants. And please, if you want to ask your question, you can also write it in the comment section in the chat box so that we can read it out. And if we don't have question, we can continue.
There is one that is on now. Can you check the chat room? One question.
Okay. Yes, I'm seeing a question here. It says, Mr. Ede, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, yes.
It says, thank you for the presentation, sir. How would one know if a seed is viable or not by just seeing it? Did you hear that?
Yes, let me answer it. For you to know that seed is viable, you need to do deposition trial by using, if it's a seed, small seed, you can use a petri dish in the lab with some paper and test and check the viability of seed before planting it. If viability of seed is more than 70%, if planted 10 seeds and up to 7 germinated, that means that seed is viable.
All right. I hope that answers your question to who asked that question. Then another question says, what makes production organic, Mr. Ede? Okay.
What makes production organic is the attitude. Like when I introduced this topic, I said that it's the behavior or the attitude. Because when you neglect some principles of organic farming, that means you're going to, that means you are moving out of the practice. But when you obey the principle, using organic material, both fertilizer, the pesticides, the fungicides, because there's some plants that are used as fungicides. There are plants that are used as pesticides. You don't use chemical or environment within the organic farm area, or you don't plant where others are planting the plant because they are using chemical. Because the distance is a factor in organic practice. That is the answer for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ede, for that wonderful answer. Now, another question here said, I would like to start a botanic garden in my compound. Could the expert advise me on what plants I can choose? I am a pharmacist interested in the hepatitis treating plants. Mr. Ede. Mr. Ede, did you hear the question? Hello?
Available medicinal plants where you are living. But if you are living in a compound that cemented, because I remember 2014, the work I did on moringa, where I planted moringa seed in a pot. Because of people that are living in urban area like in Port, Lagos, you don't have land where you can plant those garden. You can buy bucket and plant it, or if you have a land, an empty land, where you don't expose that land for chemical. Maybe you don't pour chemical material, because some compound, some people don't put chemical in some environment.
Hello, can we hear Mr. Ede? Mr. Ede, are you there?
It must be network issues.
Okay, but I believe he has answered that question to a considerable extent. Hello, yeah, Mr. Ede.
But the actual choice of therapeutic plants is a subjective issue, which is beyond what the farmer should bother himself with.
That's very correct, Prof.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Hence, the network is disturbing, Mr. Ede. We have almost exhausted the question and answer period. So we'll be moving on to the next speaker, and then the next speaker will be taking us on organic cultivation of Andrographis paniculata, and that will be done by Dr. Olufisayo Onaomi. Dr. Olufisayo Onaomi is a senior lecturer and a principal research fellow at Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria. She bagged BSc and MSc in environmental microbiology from University of Ibadan. She is a fellow of Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa. Dr. Onaomi, yes, I can see you and you are very much ready. Wonderful participants, join me as we welcome Dr. Onaomi. Dr. Onaomi, you have the floor.
The scientists, the farmers, and all the students.
Dr. Naomi, please, can you be a little audible? Thank you, ma'am.
We're not hearing you.
Is it better now?
Hello? Yes, ma'am, it's better.
There is this noise disturbing the program too.
All right, thank you very much. We'll go straight to the organic cultivation of Andrographis paniculata. As we have been hearing from since yesterday, that we have different plants that have been given that are good medicinally to help different infection. Andrographis paniculata, though it's not indigenous from Nigeria, but it's from the family of Acanthaceae calem. It's a bitter annual perennial crop. And The leaves is opposite, short-petaled, flowers in racemes, and fruit linear, oblong or elliptic, seed about 12 in number, subchondrate, brownish or creamy yellow. As you can see, the flower on, the plant on slide 3, yeah. So the common names by the Hindi is Maha Tita, and it can be called Kalem, and in English it's called King of Bitter. And in Yoruba, we call it Jobo Jobo or Meje Meje. And the Chinese call it Chuan. And slide 5 shows the habitats and distribution of Andrographis paniculata, which is King of Bitter, often found in moist, shady places. Variety of habitats, plains, hillside, coastline, disturbed and cultivated area, roadside, farms and wasteland. And it is spread throughout Asia, China, India, Sri Lanka, and in Africa. So wherever your own position or wherever your own land area is, you can plant this plant. Cultivation on soil and climate. It can be cultivated on wide range of soils from sandy loam to lateritic soils or clay loam with moderate fertility. It can be cultivated on shady wasteland. The climatic requirement of the plant is hot and humid condition with ample sunshine. Plant grows luxuriantly and starts flowering with the moderation in temperature during September. Flowering and fruiting continues up to December, depending on your own area. It can withstand partial shade of trees, say few hours, but it is cultivated in open field. It can be easily raised through seed and vegetative method, but in commercial cultivation, propagation through seed is easy and economical. As we go on in this presentation, I will let you know how best you can do it. And nursery raising and planting of King of Bitter, its propagation is through shattered or scattered seed in nature. Vegetative propagation is also possible in certain special cases. Through layering, you can cut the stem as each node is capable of producing enough roots. Seeds are small and remain dormant for 5 to 6 months. For raising crops in 1 hectare, 3 beds of 10 by 2 meter size should be tilled, pulverized, and leveled during the month of May. Liberal use of organic manure in nursery is advised for raising healthy seedling. Seed should be covered by very thin layer of soil and compost mixture to make it grow well. Beds should be covered properly by suitable mulch and irrigated regularly with water fountain till seedling merge between 6 to 7 days. Mulch is irrigation of the seedling. After 10 to 15 days, regular flood irrigation can be given till it becomes ready for planting. Transplanting of seedling is done in 2nd fortnight of June at a roll and plant spacing of 45 to 60 centimeter and 30 to 45 centimeter respectively. But if you are a farmer and you cannot, 2 feet apart can take care of this, and beds should be irrigated immediately after planting. The slide 8, nursery technique. Seed are soaked in water for 24 hours and sown in nursery beds in early September. About 650 to 750 gram seeds are required for raising nursery for 1 hectare of land. Nursery is prepared with soil, sand, and organic matter of ratio 1:1 and sown in early September at 5 centimeter spacing in rows. It takes 8 to 10 days for germination to commence. 6 weeks old seedlings are planted in field at 30 by 15 centimeter or 15 by 15 centimeter spacing. Direct sown crop is, direct sown seedling is broadcasted thinly and has a seed rate of 1.5 kilo per hectare. Matures early, but nursery raising is preferred. For nursery beds, farmyard manure at 20 kilograms per square meter as basal dose is mixed in the soil. Slide 9, land preparation and manure application. The land should be prepared well by repeated plowing to make soil pulverized for main field. Farmyard manure at 20 tons per hectare is given as a basal application if it is available. Use of 5 kilo of Azospirium and bacteria per hectare has also been giving good results. Transplanting and optimum spacing should be done between 10 to 25 centimeter long seedling. Seedling raised in the nursery beds during September are transplanted in the main field after 6 weeks of sowing at a distance of 30 by 15 centimeter between plant to plant and row to row. Irrigation is necessary if the rain, the water or the rain is not consistent in that area. So 4 to 6 light irrigations are required till harvesting the crop. Disease and pest control. It is a hardy plant and not attacked by any pest and disease. We go on, we just show one of our farmers. It's a very beautiful garden here by Dr. Osude. We see the plantation of well laid out and well irrigated farmland of King of Vita. Thinning, slide 11, thinning and weeding. To begin with 1 or 2 weeding, owing are essential to get the crop established. After establishment, crop grows well during rainy season and does not face any competition from weed. That's why it's called serpentina. When it crosses like that, it spread its seedling about and it takes over the whole field. Since it is a herbaceous plant, the field should be free from weeds. 2 to 3 weedings are essential if at all we need to. During the crop season at 20 days and 60 days after transplantation. Slide 12 shows that manure, fertilizer, and pesticide that can be used organically for establishing King of Vita plantation. The medicinal plant have to be grown without chemical fertilizer and use of pesticide. It does not even like the scent of chemical. Anytime they spray the field with chemicals that is inorganic, it will prevent it from growing again. So we have to maintain this and use the use of organic manure like our farmyard manure, vermicompost, green manure may be used as per requirement of the species. To prevent diseases, biopesticide could be prepared, either single or mixture from neem. You can get the neem plant and make biopesticide, and you can make it in form of tea. The kernel, seeds, and leaves. The cow urine can be used and rabbit urine, and it has a proportion ratio 1:5 that can be used to help prevent any attack of diseases and to make it grow well. Slide 13 shows the irrigation for that garden. Fairly distributed rainfall during rainy season is sufficient to raise annual crop. Once it's established, it will just keep on. But prior to rain, 2 to 3 irrigations are required. If there is no rain, you need to irrigate it. 2 to 3 irrigations are required. Irrigation during dry season does not show much effect on biomass yield, as by that time, plant is in reproductive phase. Slide 14 shows the harvesting, post-harvesting operation. Maximum herb biomass can be obtained in 90 to 100 days, depending on the area where you're planting. Because sometimes if it is a very good soil, fertile soil, you may even have your result before the 90 days, beyond which leaves start shedding. If crop is raised as annual crop and planted during the month of March and June, it should be harvested when flowering is initiated. So that we have to take note of that is the time that the andrographilod is high. At the time of flower initiation, active principle andrographilod that is essential in that plant is very high. Since the whole plant contains active principle, entire harvested material is dried in shade and powdered. It is not a plant that you're exposed to sun to dry, but it's better you dry it in shade to maintain this active ingredient. The crop matures after 100 days of sowing, depending on the area. It is harvested when most plants are in bloom. It is at this stage, the plant should be uprooted. However, a small lot of healthy plants should be left in the field for seed production. This is the way I'm going, that once because the seed of King of Bitter is very, very, it releases itself it broadcasts itself once it smells water or wind. It just bursts open like that. So it's very difficult to collect the seed. But if you need to collect the seed, you can do it in a technical form. But if you cannot, you can leave a portion of your field for that raising of seedling. As you water it and the seed is bursting open, then you can allow the area, maybe like quarter of your garden can be left for that raising of seedling. And you will just be picking the seedling in between the garden, and you can have in 1,000 because it yields so much seedling. When the fruit become mature, this should be picked up and dried in the sun, and seeds are collected. So when you see that the fruit is mature, the greenish one, and is thick, then that you see that it's mature, you can collect that pod and keep. But if you cannot, you can leave that portion of the seed for raising of the seedling. The seed should be kept in open sun for complete drying. After this, these are stored in airtight container for next sowing. Post-harvest management. After uprooting the plant, it should be dry in the sun for 2 days and afterward in the shade. This properly dry material should be packed in laminated gunny bags. Let it absorb moisture. The harvested dry material should be stored in dark, airy, and moisture-free places. Visibility of seed, 1 year of storage from the time of harvest is okay. Chemical constituent, the list contains 3 bitter principles: deoxyandrographilloids, andrographilloids. These are also present in the whole plant from the stem to the root. The list should yield about 2.5% chemical constituent on analysis. Slide 15 shows that the yield, once we want to harvest, we harvest the whole plant. But for commercial purpose, we advise the farmer to prune so that you can still have your field intact for the next because by the next 3 months, you see it blooming again. A well-maintained crop grown during rainy season yields 3.5 to 4 tons of dried herbs per hectare. An economic return at the minimum you can get per hectare is $573, which is about $240,000. That is on the minimum. You can get more than that if you have a good buyer for it. And the health benefit, as we know, is uncountable. Andrographics exhibit the following properties: the antibacterial property, it has antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, immune stimulating properties, either alone or in combination with other herbs. Andrographic paniculata has been shown to reduce duration and severity of upper respiratory infection, such as those associated with common cold, flu, especially COVID-19 related symptoms. Appreciation, I want to appreciate the HerbFest organizer for inviting me to speak here. I really appreciate it. I'm not taking it for granted. And Bioresources Institute of Nigeria. And I also want to appreciate my institute for releasing me to come and give this Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria. Bless you. Thank you so much for this thing. Any question? Thank you.
A million thanks to Dr. Onaomi for this wonderful presentation, and she kept to time. So question and answer session. If you have a question, type it in the chat session. Now, before your questions start coming in, please, because of network was bad, our first speaker could not finish answering his question. Or if you have a question you want to ask, you can send a message to Prof. And then we have a platform, medicinal plants platform, water platform, where you can even get other value-packed information you would like. Maybe anybody that have question and want to get similar information, value-packed information on how to cultivate organic medicinal plants, you can be given the privilege to join the platform. So don't panic, all your questions will be answered. Thank you very much.
There's a question on the chat about Dr. Osude.
Okay, the question says, thank you very much for this great presentation. Please, how long can shrub live once planted? Dr. Naomi.
Are we talking about, when you say shrub, are we talking about this king or shrub generally?
Maybe let's use shrub generally.
All right. If it is, let me take andrographics for example. I told you that between 90 days and 100 days of planting, you can have your king bitter, and we use the whole plant for whatever we want to do. But I advise that for economical reason, you can prune from the tip very close to the roots. And with this, it will sprout again once the root is intact. So you can use it as much as, you can have it as much as 3 years if you want to keep it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question here by Victoria says, thank you, ma'am, for this wonderful presentation. Please, ma'am, how volatile is andrographolide regarding the temperature to use while oven drying? Did you get the question, Dr. Naomi?
Yes, that's what I told you, that once we want to dry, we need to use some hair drying. And if you want to do oven drying, if at all, because most of our farmers, we advise them not to use oven, but some use solar to do the drying. That's a particular temperature that will not affect it. But mostly, even the people that will use, the end user in the laboratory, they will even ask you, what did you use? What method did you use in drying? If it is hair drying, you get more money. So it's better you maintain a good one, because that andrographolide, it's easily gets affected by heat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doc. Another question here said, you talked about the benefits of King of Bitters. How can it be used for consumption and for what purposes? Did you get that, Doc?
Yes, I got the question. King of Bitter, as I said towards the end of my presentation, it has a lot of benefits. For us, it's a lot of benefits. You have to be careful the way you use it. It has antibacterial property, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, immune-stimulating property, but it has to be with dosage. So some people, when they produce it, they make it into supplement, like we do in forestry, a supplement. So the supplement, we have a way we prescribe to use, and mostly people don't like bitter because it's king of bitter. It's bitter than bitter leaf itself. So they make it in capsule, but it's not in capsule yet. But some people that are producing it make it into capsule at a very, very minimal, about 400 mg or 400 levels of the size of the capsule. So it's very useful, but you must have a dosage of using it and not misuse the opportunities given. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Onaomi. I think there's no more question. Okay. Yes, there's no more question. And then we are moving over to the next speaker.
Yes, I think there's another question. Check the chat
Okay.
box. Check the chat box.
Okay, a question here, though we just have a few minutes for the question and answer. We just have 3 minutes for the question and answer section. It says, thank you, ma'am. You said it can be used in mixture with other plants. Dr. Naomi.
Yes. It can be used with other plants depending on the kind of infection. So, but that's maybe so another question that is asking, does your institute grant student visits? So if you come for training, or we'll be able to tell you what to combine and how to combine it. And I know the bioresources also are doing something like that. So it can be used with other plants.
Yes, thank you very much, Doc. We appreciate you so much. And on that note, we'll be welcoming our next speaker, who will be taking us on organic cultivation of Artemisia annua, and he is Professor Chike I.C. Ogbonna. Professor Chike Ogbonna is the first Nigeria to receive PhD in the field of biotechnology, bioengineering. He is the founder of Biotechnology Society of Nigeria and the Organization of Professional Biotechnology and Bioengineers of West Africa. He pioneered research in the enhancement of artemisinin content of Artemisia annua from 0.8% to 4.8%, which gave birth to Artemisia annua variety Chikenensis. Professor Ogbonna will be taking us on organic cultivation of Artemisia annua. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as we welcome Professor Ogbonna as he will take us on this topic. Professor Ogbonna, if you're there, you have the floor.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome,
to be part and parcel of this very wonderful gathering. We are going to look at the cultivation of Artemisia annua for the enhancement of its.
Sorry, Prof. Is there a way you can adjust your audio? It's not clear, to make it more clearer, Prof. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Let's see.
So I continue. Artemisia Anoa. The name was derived from Artemis, the Greek goddess of the forest, and the daughter of Zeus, a Greek god. The plant is known by different names. It is known as sweet sagewood, annual mugwood, annual wormwood, wormwood, and here in Nigeria, we are calling it Mpucha Iba. It's derived from Igbo. That's an Igbo word. We also are trying to get Yoruba and Hausa names for this particular magic plant. The description of the plant. The plant is vigorous, erect, annual, or sometimes biannual. It is a herb and grows from 120 to 200 centimeters, or even up to 300 centimeters. It has a taproot and a highly developed, aggressive, fibrous root, which enables it to scavenge for nutrients in the soil. And because of its well-developed root system, other plants find it difficult to compete with this plant where it is in the farm. The flowers are greenish to yellowish, and the polygrains are tricomplete and they're smooth. And the polygrains can be allergic. And those with asthma are advised not to get very close to the plant when it is flowering. The plant's ecology. The plant thrives in a temperate to subtemperate environments. And that's why it is common in Kenya, Tanzania, because of the high altitude. Here in Nigeria, the plant has been found to do well in the Plateau State, Obudu, Enugu State, and other highlands. The advantage we have with the variety we have developed is that it can grow in almost every part of Nigeria. And the plant has the growth cycle of 180 days. 80 days in the nursery, 100 days in the field. Water requirements. The plant uses a lot of water, so it must be planted very close to a river or to a dam or any other water system that is regular and that cannot dry up. And the plant in the field requires an annual rainfall of at least 600 to 650 millimeters. It can withstand dry conditions once established. However, any moisture stress in the early days of the plant tends to induce early flowering and reduces the leaf production. Soil type. The plant prefers light medium textured soils, sandy and loamy soils. The soil should be well drained. The soil should have the appropriate carbon-nitrogen ratio. Due to its aggressive fibrous root system, the plant is used for erosion control. The plant prefers slightly alkaline soil. A weight of 67 kilograms of nitrogen is needed per hectare of soil that is needed for the growth of these plants. Pollination. The plant is anomophilous and is naturally pollinated by insects and winds and the wind. The plant is a diploid plant, and with a chromosome number of 2n equal to 18. It contains recipes for malaria tea in its leaves. The leaf extract has anti-malaria activity. Its artemisinin content is used for artemisinin-based combination therapy. It contains so many useful biochemicals that are used for the production of array of medical products. Now, how do we grow these plants? This plant cannot be grown directly in the field because the seeds can easily be destroyed by the weevils, fungi, bacteria, and other soil pathogens. So it is, first of all, grown in the nursery. And for the growth of this plant in the nursery, the soil must be free of neem and other pathogens I've mentioned. And it must have the correct range of a pH value. The seeds are spread on top of the soil in the nursery, and they begin to germinate between 3 to 6 days. In fact, by 6 days, the seeds are fully germinated. But the seeds are highly perishable, and must be very, taken good care of to make sure that they have encouraging seed germination. Uh, 0.03 grams of the seed powder contains about 10,000 plants. And 1 kilogram of the seed powder contains over 33 million seeds. And 0.1 gram of the seed powder is needed per 1 square hectare. 1 square meter of the soil. The seeds are sown in the tray, wooden tray, like you can see on the slides. After 3 to 4 weeks, when the seedlings have reached a height of about 2 to 3 centimeters, that is when they have produced 4 to 5 leaves, they are ready to be transplanted into another set of boxes. Seedling hardening, about 8 weeks after the appearance of 10 true leaves. After sowing of the seeds, that is about 4 weeks after the first transplanting, the seedlings should be ready for hardening. In order to harden the plants, exposure of the plants to sunlight is gradually maximized, while the watering is reduced to a minimum. The process must not be excessive to avoid stress-induced reactions, which could lead to early flowering. Field transplanting. The seedlings should be ready for transplanting to the field after 11 weeks. After 11 weeks of sowing, or 5 weeks after the first transplanting. When the plants are about 10 to 12 cm tall, 2 hours before lifting the seedlings from the pots or from the boxes, the soil should be saturated with water. Prior to transplanting, ridges or beds are prepared. Ridges are needed where the soil is heavy and where the furrow irrigation is practiced, or where the soil is heavy and prone to retaining excess water during the rainy season. The soil is prepared to the beginning, prior to the beginning of the rains. Waterlogging should be avoided. Ridges should be 15 cm or more high, 20 cm wide, and 20 meters long. If the beds are used, they should be 1.5 meters wide and 20 meters long. Each hectare of land should contain 10,000 plants. The spacing between the plants should be 1 meter. The nitrogen content of the soil should be 67 kilograms per hectare. Seedlings transplantation should be done in rows in order to facilitate possible thinning of the seedlings at the time of transplanting. Once the plants are transplanted in the field, they should be adequately irrigated in order to avoid early flowering. Irrigating the field will enable the plants to blossom and also reach peak photosynthetic process. The plant produces 2,267.97 kilograms of leaves per hectare of soil. Harvesting of the leaves, which are the major requirement of this plant. The leaf contain the artemisinin that is required for the production of artemisinin-based combination therapy. When the plant has reached full bloom, the leaves are harvested and left in the field for primary drying. Then they are taken in special containers to the main drying station, which should be under the solar system. You want to maintain the color of the leaves and to prevent the loss of most of the biochemicals. The leaves are hygroscopic. That is, if they are dry. If they're exposed to the atmosphere, the leaves absorb water from the atmosphere and such could lead to deterioration or decay of the leaves. So care must be taken to make sure that the leaves are protected from decay activities of microorganisms. Now the wastes that are generated in the farm can be degraded and plowed back into the soil to enhance the soil fertility. Now, animal manure is preferred for the growth of these plants. We don't like using chemical fertilizers.
Soils from sandy loam to lateritic soils.
For the growth of these plants. The benefits. Outlet of the harvested leaves. The harvested leaves can be subjected to artemisinin extraction for the production of artemisinin-based combination therapy, ACT. The harvested leaves can be exported to overseas pharmaceutical companies for them to extract and employ for the production of malaria drugs. The leaves can be employed in the production of anti-malaria tea, anti-diabetes tea, or drugs for cancer and hypertension. The leaves can be used for the production of food spices. The leaves can be used for the production of insecticide. They can be used for the production of animal deworming drugs. The leaves can be used for the production of drugs for pile or hemorrhoids. The leaves can be used in the care of sore throats. The leaf extract can be used in the management of COVID-19. Essential oil from the leaves can be extracted, which is the vital industrial raw material. The leaf extract can be used for the correction of irregular menstrual flows. Benefits of making Artemisia a cash crop in Nigeria. Nigerians will have easy access to cheap and functional malaria drugs in terms of artemisinin-based combination therapy. Artemisia and commercial farming will create thousands of jobs in Nigeria. It will make Nigeria a member of the League of Nations that cultivate Anoa as a cash crop. Now, the Indians derive so much from this plant, and that's why it's called the wealth of India. China makes a lot of money from this plant. As I talked to you this morning, a lot of Nigerians are lavishing in Chinese jail because of their various attempts to smuggle this plant out of China. This plant has over 350 species. The species that is common in Africa is Artemisia afra. And any of the varieties that contain 0.6% artemisinin and above is regarded as having economic value. These plants will help stop capital flight from Nigerian currency. It will reduce crime rates. It will enhance government change policy. And any Nigerian political party that adopts malaria eradication slogan is definitely going to win the House of the People. It will earn Nigeria a lot of foreign exchange, as the malaria drugs will be exported to other African countries. The money saved from the importation of foreign malaria drugs will be utilized in other developmental projects. It will lead to a Nigerian healthy workforce a healthy economy and a happy nation. And malaria must die so that over 206 million Nigerians can live. Now, we have asked those who are interested in the farming of these plants to register with our Artemisia Cooperative Farmers Group, known as National Association of Artemisia Farmers, NAF. Anybody that's interested can get registered with this association for the ease of funding by government or other groups, and for the ease of protecting the interests of these farmers. This is a very wonderful plant. And because of its usefulness, we have now called it the pride of Nigeria. Thank you so much. I hope you are listening to me.
Thank you very much, Professor Obonna, for this wonderful presentation. Now it's time for questions. If you have a question, type it in the chat box.
Madam Moderator, I just wanted to question, not a question, a comment, in the sense that there are a lot of people from Ghana and other African countries, and the thing is live streamed to them. So you have an idea what is up. So what you said for Nigeria applies also to your home countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof.
Please, I did not get that.
There are so many people, it's not only Nigerians that are logged in. I'm telling them that what you said about Nigeria also applies to their own countries.
It's okay, it's all right.
Yeah, so we are, because a lot of Ghanaians, South African, I've seen Cameroonian, Ugandan from the chat room that I'm replying to some tests. Just so that they don't think that it is only Nigeria, they can apply what you just said to their own home country.
It's okay. It's all right.
Thank you, Prof, for a wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Questions here are asking, how do we register for the association, or how do we get the link? So maybe please, can you share that slide that contains the numbers to contact if you want to join, so that people can copy out those numbers and reach out to them? Yes, you can get, if you are interested, you can write out this number and communicate to them after the training. Now, a question here says, thank you, Prof, for this presentation. In the wake of the progress made in the development of malaria vaccine, what is the prospect for continuous use of Artemisia as a cure? Did you get that, Prof?
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
This bucket, which yellow thing there inside it?
Can I answer?
Yes, Prof. You have the floor.
I think the vaccine is being tried, and anything can go wrong. And this plant is not only for malaria drugs, it has other uses. And I bet you, whether there is a vaccine or no vaccine, we'll still need these plants for the production of malaria drugs here. You can't take a problem or solve it using only one method. You have to use other, look at other sides of the equation.
All right. Thank you for the answer. And I hope that answers your question, Judith Mwachuku. Another question here says, please, Prof, how do you treat the soil to be alkaline since you said it needed an alkaline soil? That's the question, Prof.
Actually, it needs slightly acidic to slightly alkaline soil. It's about 0.4 pH to about 7 point something near 8 pH range. You can use a lemon to correct the soil to bring it to that level. But Nigerian soil here, the soils we have tested, fall within the range. So it might not need any adjustment with regards to bringing it to the level for the cultivation of this plant. Thank you.
Many thanks, Prof. Another question here says, thank you very much, Prof. Please, where can we get the seeds? Are there ready off-takers? Did you get the question, Prof?
Yes, I got it.
All right.
We have the seeds. They are patented. And as I talk to you now, we have over 20 billion plants, 20 billion plants in the nursery. So what we do is for the farmers to make sure that they don't suffer from losses, we help them to raise the nurseries and also help them on how to package the seeds when they are matured to make sure that they are free from being devoured by weevils, because the weevils are the greatest destroyers of these seeds.
Okay. Does that mean that one cannot buy the seeds from you?
Yeah, we can sell the seeds to you.
Okay. Now, someone is asking, what is the difference between Artemisia annua and Artemisia absitume? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I said that we have over 350 species of these plants. So what is mentioned is one of the species. As you have Artemisia afra, which is the one that is common in Africa.
All right. Many thanks, Prof, for your wonderful presentation and answer to all the questions asked here. For those of you requesting for the slides, that will be sent to you via your emails after this training. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
There's one question.
Is there a question there? Okay. Dr. Osude asks, are there buyers readily available to buy the dry leaf from farmers? Prof, are you there?
Yes. We have a lot of requests from this country right now and from overseas. And for us to meet the requests, we're going to need about 8,000 hectares of land. And we are working in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology for the raising of these plants in order to meet up with the demands by the various organizations. And we have a plan to have 6 zonal farms along the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. And we are hoping to establish a farm in the southeast and a farm in the south-south, a farm in the southwest, a farm in the north-central, a farm in the northeast, a farm in the northwest, and a farm in the Federal Capital Territory. in order to meet up with the demand. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Actually, we've exhausted the time for question and answer. So we'll be moving on to the next speaker. And the next speaker is Miss Edith Ezema, and she will be presenting on harvest and post-harvest techniques and care. Please, can my slide be shared? All right. Miss Edith Ezema is my humble self, your humble moderator, and I'll be taking you on harvest and post-harvest techniques. I am a plant scientist and the head of VCO department at Bioresources Institute of Nigeria, and equally a farm supervisor at AgroBiome. For the purpose of this training, I will be using scientific names of plants, and I will be teaching you the basic time, the right time and techniques for harvesting medicinal plants in order to maximize their active ingredients or active components, or what we call the phytochemicals, in order to get these phytochemicals in great quantity, because these phytochemicals are responsible for the therapeutic or medicinal value of plants. Now let's begin. What is harvesting? Harvesting is the removal of entire plants or economic parts after maturity from the field. Harvesting can be done in different ways. It can be done through cutting, it can be done through picking, it can be done through plucking, it can be done through digging, or even the combination of all. Next slide. Now let's move on to the right time to harvest. Here is a scientific fact I want you to know. The active components or the active ingredients of medicinal plants are responsible for their therapeutic or medicinal values. I will say that again. The active components or the active ingredients of medicinal plants are responsible for their therapeutic values. Therefore, I would want you to concentrate on getting medicinal plants that have high quality of active components rather than concentrating on the vegetative quantity of the plant. To obtain high quality efficacious herbal drugs, the appropriate plant part of the medicinal plant must be one, harvested at the optimum stage of development or growth. Two, dried at appropriate temperature and condition. Three, packaged in clean, dry sacks, boxes, container, etc. Four, stored in a clean, dry, and ventilated spaces. Next slide. Now, below is a general guide on the time and techniques of the different plant parts to be harvested according to Pande 2017. The first one will be looking at the bulbs. If you want to get the maximum active ingredients of bulbs, the right time to harvest it is at late autumn, long after the plant had flowered and fruit. Autumn in Nigeria is between the month of September to November. Now here are techniques. The bulb should be dug from considerable distance from the main plant in order not to cause injury on the bulb. Another one says you collect only the mature big bulbs and leave the small ones for regeneration. Next slide. Now we are moving up to the next one, which is the back. In order to maximize the phytochemicals or the active ingredients in the back, you harvest in autumn after leaf fall or spring before leaf development. Spring in Nigeria is between the month of March to May. Now, the techniques to follow is to remove the back in a long vertical strips using a thin flexible blade or bush knife, just as you can see what the man is doing in the picture. Do not practice ring backing because it will cause the death of the plant. Allow for regeneration of roots before collecting back from the same plant again. Next slide. We're moving over to the next plant part, which is the rhizomes or the roots. Now, in order to get the maximum amount of active components from medicinal rhizomes or roots, the right time to harvest from annual plants, you harvest shortly before flowering. Now, using an example is a Euphorbia heta. If you want to get the maximum active ingredients of Euphorbia heta roots, the right time to harvest it is shortly before it starts flowering. Now, from biennial plants, you harvest during autumn or winter following the first year growth. An example of a biennial plant is Dacus carota. So we are saying that if you want to maximize the active components of Dacus carota roots, the right time to harvest it is during autumn or winter. Then this autumn or winter in Nigeria is between the month of September to the month of February, following the first year growth. From perennial plants, you harvest during autumn or winter, following the second year growth. An example, as you can see from the picture, is Zingiber officinale. You can harvest the Zingiber officinale rhizomes annually. You can harvest it biannually. You can harvest it perennially. So you harvest it the year following maybe the second or the third year growth. And the technique here says, do not collect all the roots and also do not tamper with the taproot. Next slide. Then the next plant part we're looking at here is the leaves. In order to maximize the active ingredients in leaves, collection should be made in dry weather while the plant is flowering. So as you can see from the picture shows a Pisidium guajava tree that is in full bloom. So in order to maximize the phytochemicals of this plant that are responsible for its medicinal value, the right time to harvest this leaf is when this plant is flowering. Now, techniques here says pluck individual leaves instead of leaf stripping. Collection should be made in the morning. Leaves should be harvested at the time of initiation of flowers. So it's just emphasizing on the right time to harvest the leaf, which is at the initiation of the flowers. Next slide. The next one we are looking at is the flowers. Now, in order to maximize the active components of flowers, collection should be made in dry weather and in early hours of the day after dews have reduced. Flowers must be harvested when they have just opened or shortly afterwards to capture its aroma. So obviously, the right time to harvest flower is when the plant has produced flower, just as you can see from the hibiscus species picture there, that it has flower. And most importantly, harvest should be done just after it opened or shortly afterwards to capture its aroma. Next slide. The next plant part is the seeds or the fruits. To maximize the phytochemicals of fruits or seeds, connection should be made when fruits are fully grown or ripe or nearly ripe. As you can see from the picture, that is a tree of Garcinia cola, and you can see that its fruits are ripe. So this is the right time to harvest this Garcinia cola fruit, and you will get the maximum phytochemicals of this plant. Now, some technique says to avoid seed dispersal, it is advisable to collect slightly early. So you agree with me, for those of you that have cultivated andrographis, that if you had made attempts to harvest the seeds, maybe during afternoon, it has a pod that when it dries, it disperses. Therefore, in order to maximize the seed you're harvesting, it is advisable to collect them slightly early. Another technique says branches of the trees or shrub should not be cut for easier collection of fruits or seeds, because that will make the plant, you will lose the plant if you continue cutting branches to make it easy for you to collect either the fruits or the seeds. Next slide. The last but not the least is annual herbs or the whole plant. If you want to get the maximum amount of phytochemicals responsible for the medicinal value of a whole plant, it should be harvested at the time of initiation of flowers. Just as you can see from the picture, that is Andrographis paniculata picture, and you can see that it has flowers. So the right time to harvest whole plants is when the plant has flowered. A technique says co-population in a given area should not be harvested in order to allow for regeneration. What this point is saying is that for the fact you're harvesting the whole plant, a healthy portion should be left unharvested so that it will produce seeds for you for next planting season. Next slide. Now, from the explanation above, you can now see that the right time to harvest medicinal plants, irrespective of the part, is at its developmental or growth stage. So what we are saying is that even for the fact that most of medicinal plants are processed dry, it doesn't guarantee why you should harvest a dry part of a plant from the tree. Any part of the plant that is dried from the field has lost most of its active ingredients, which are responsible for their therapeutic value. So don't harvest plants that is dry from the seed. They are dead and they are reduced in phytochemicals. Do you understand? Specifically, the best time to harvest leaves, flowers, and whole plant is at the initiation of flowers. Now, to prove this statement, here is a scientific findings. According to a study carried out by Pandey and Das in 2010, a maximum amount of andrographolide, 2.85%, was found in Andrographis paniculata when harvested after 130 to 150 days of planting at the time of initiation of the flowers. Do you understand? So even after mentioning the days of after planting, there is an emphatic phrase there, and that is at the initiation of the flower. And if you don't know, andrographolide is an active compound in Andrographis paniculata that is strongly responsible for its medicinal value. Next slide. Now we move over to post-harvest operations. We have a the post-harvest of operations here include sorting, washing, drying, packaging, and storage. Next slide. Now, what is sorting? Sorting is basically the removal of foreign matters, weeds, or toxic plants that are mixed with your harvested medicinal materials. We move over to the next operation, which is washing. The harvested plant material should be washed with clean water. Soil should be removed properly from rhizomes and roots. Do not wash with contaminated water. Do not wash seeds or other delicate parts such as flowers of the medicinal plant. All excessive water should be drained from the herb before drying. Next slide. Now, another operation is drying. This basically means the reduction of the moisture content of medicinal plants, and it is aimed at preventing enzymatic and microbial activities for consequently preserving the product to extend its shelf life in different ways. It can be done in an aerated environment, especially under shade. It can be done under room temperature. It can be done with oven at a reduced temperature. Next slide. Packaging. The dried plant material should be packed in clean, dry sacks, bags, or boxes, preferably new. Then if you want to use a reusable sacks or bags or plastics, it should be well cleaned and dry before reused. Next slide. Storage. The packed plant material should be stored in a clean, dry place away from the wall and off the ground in order to protect the plant material from pests, rodents, and other domestic animals attack. Next slide. Now we look at temperature. This is the most important factor for maintaining quality after harvesting. Use adequate temperature for processing your plant material. Do not leave a fresh harvested material in a sack or bag for more than 24 hours to avoid decay. With this, we have come to the end of this presentation. Thank you very much for listening. Now it's time for question and answer. If you have your question, you know how we do it. Type them in.
Yeah, my typing is slow, so let me ask the question directly. What from the presentation you made now is kind of scary for those of us who deal with medicinal plants for therapeutic purposes. It means that if the harvesting is not properly conducted, that you may be ending up having a serious batch issue that sometimes you think that you have the same medicinal plant, but because of harvesting, what you harvested may be good in biomass, but in terms of constituents, you may be poor.
That's very right, Prof. That is very right. That's very correct. That's why if you deal with a production of medicinal products using plant raw material, it is important that you have your own garden, that you raise your plant and you plant your plant yourself, so that you will observe all these techniques and the right time to harvesting this plant material so as to maximize the phytochemicals or the active ingredients or the active constituents that are responsible for their medicinal value. Did I attempt in answering your question, Prof?
Yes, you did. You did very well. You did. It was a point you already made, so I was only trying to get a re-emphasis from you, which you did. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Prof. Questions? Who else has questions to ask?
There's a question on the chat now.
Yes, yes. He said, you mentioned that the time for collection of area parts is at the developmental stage. Is this one cap fits or all scenarios, or it's peculiar to target phytoconstituents. Some constituents must be higher when the leaf has fallen. Please clarify. Okay. If you will observe that I took different plant parts one by one. Do you understand? During when I was explaining the right time to harvest bark of a plant, if your target is the bark, I mentioned that you harvest it when the leaves had fallen or before the development of leaves. Do you understand? So different plant parts has different right time for their harvest in order to maximize these phytochemicals. Do you get? So if you're harvesting, I only specify that for leaves, for whole plants, and for flowers, the best time to harvest them is at the initiation of the flower when the plant is flowering, especially if you're using them for medicinal purposes. I don't know if that answers your questions, sir. Another question says, is any of the harvesting technique time sensitive? It is always good to harvest flowers, leaves, and whole plants in the morning after the dews had reduced, if there is dew in the air. So the best time is early in the morning, because if you're harvesting, let's say, Ocimum gratissimum that has volatile gases, if you harvest them that has volatile compound, if you harvest them in the afternoon, you know what that means. You are going to lose some of those volatile compound in the plant. I don't know if that answers your question. Another question here says, is your organization specialized in good agricultural inspection? Yes, yes. Bioresources Institute of Nigeria, we practice good agricultural practice, and then it can inspect too. I don't know if that answered your question. Any other questions? Now, if there is no other question, we will be moving to the next speaker, who will be taking us on plant identification. Plant identification will be by Mr. Felix Nwafo. Mr. Felix Nwafo is a lecturer and a PhD scholar at the Department of Plant Science and Biotech at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He is a member of International Association of Plant Taxonomists and Botanical Society of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, help me and welcome Mr. Felix. Mr. Felix, if you're ready, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Felix Nwafo. I'll be talking on plant identification. Next slide, please. Now we'll be looking at this. No, this is not the latest presentation I sent. I don't know, am I allowed to share my screen? Hello?
Mr. Felix, we can't hear you.
Okay, so this is not the, can I share my screen? This is not the latest presentation I sent.
Can we hear him?
Yes, we are hearing him.
Yes, we can.
He wants to share his screen. because what is being presented is not the latest presentation that he forwarded.
Mr. Felix, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. This thing can transfer the hosting to him so that he can do that, but as long as he sends it back to them soon after.
He's
Okay.
not the host, he can share.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm trying to.
Double click.
I have, but.
Then why don't you transfer it back to them so that they can use what you, if they can check.
I did this morning.
Please, our IT teams, do you have his slides so that you can help him and
The
share?
latest one he said is the latest one he said he sent, please, so that we can.
I think we should have a host and a co-host that can be helping in issues like this.
Okay.
The system have a co-host that has only a host. That's
okay.
why I send it to him. Let him send it back.
Okay, it's okay. I think I've been able to solve the issue. Yeah. So I'll now minimize these ones. Okay. So sorry for the inconveniences. So
It's
like I
right,
said,
Mr.
my name
Felix.
is Felix Nwafo, talking about plant education. Now, plant education actually means being able to identify or being able to.
We are not seeing this.
The slides.
It's not showing.
You are not pointing to the correct one. You are not showing at all.
Oh.
Is your system that is showing?
Click the system now. You are on a
The slide is showing on my side. I don't know why.
But you have not shared what you are showing. You have not shared it. The screen you still have. Go off share screen and then come back again.
I click the share and it went there. Okay. Can you see it now?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. So as I was saying, all right. Can you see now?
We're seeing.
Okay. Now, plant education is an aspect of plant taxonomy that involves the process of distinguishing one plant from the other. Now, what this means is that you mustn't be able to name a plant before you will be able to say that you have identified the plant. Once you're able to tell that this plant is different from this plant based on certain features, you have practically identified it. Now, it's the most important aspect of plant taxonomy and also the most difficult, because sometimes students will go on to memorize names of plants in the environment. And once they go out of that environment, they become a complete novice. You're going to see a different flora altogether. But when you follow the right process of plant taxonomy, you will now be able to study the morphology, the features of taxonomic importance, and you'll now be able to even identify a plant that you've not seen before in your life. Now, let's go to the basic. Plant classification.
Please, can we hear Mr. Felix? Because I can't hear him from my own end.
You can hear
him very clearly here.
Very
clear. I'm hearing him very clearly here. I'm hearing him clearly.
I think where she is very far. Let the ICT fix it.
So can I continue?
I wouldn't know.
Go ahead, please. You're audible.
All right, thank you. So plant classification is simply grouping these plants based on similarities or differences in their features. Now, if you have plants that have the same features, it's meant to believe that they come from the same ancestral origin. And if that is so, they should be in the same group. Whether it's, we're going to see whether it's a family, whether it's the same genus or the same species. Now, there are differences in the features will now make them different. Maybe now group them into different families, different genera or species, for instance. Now, there are evidences from features from which you can classify plants. You can do that based on physical features, the morphology of the plant, or by internal structures, the anatomy, or by number of chromosomes, the cytology, study of the cells, or by pollen. You heard when Paul was talking about Artemisia having monocorporate or tricorporate pollen. Now, this is also a feature that will be able to help to identify the particular plant. It can be by what we call Chemo Taxonomy, where you now begin to consider the chemical constituents of the plant, and based on that, be able to distinguish them. And this is where drug development is, really don't play with. Because if you believe that, for instance, you're able to get Artemisia name from Artemisia Anoa, and you no more be able to get that particular species that you have around. So their best bet is to look at other species that are related to that same, because you believe that if they actually came from the same ancestral origin, they should also have shared the same biogenetic pathway. So you should be able to get that compound that they're looking for, or at worst, the derivative of that compound in the closest relative. Now, as we talk, we will have levels of hierarchy in class because you have the division, the family, and all that. Most of we are more conversant with the families and the genus and species. Then we have what we call binomial, which means every scientific name or every botanical name should come in twos. These are rules of the nomenclature. And we also know that these names are in Latin. And generic name, now there's something I want us to understand in plant, that when you know, if sometimes you may not even be able to, you may not even be a specialist before you be able to say what one plant is. Now, if you know, if you have in mind that the generic name, that the first name that comes in the two serves in form of a noun, and the other one in the form of an adjective that describes or qualifies the noun, you'll be able to decipher some of the scientific names. We'll have the first example here, Sequidaca longipedicula. What it means is the long peduncle Sequidaca. Now, the person that collected it for the first time, maybe must have been collecting different species of the same plant that have short peduncles. But then he now found this one that had long peduncles, and he now gave it the name longipedunculata. The same thing as Androgynous paniculata. You're talking about the inflorescence being paniculate type. Then you talk about, there are sometimes use the location of the plant, the location of the first time the plant was collected. Like House Americanum, what it simply means that the plant was first collected from America. Now, this doesn't mean that I may not find this plant from any other place. As a matter of fact, we have it in Nigeria. But there, this is the first place that the first person identified the plant, collected it from, and so on. You have the one that you can get from the use, succulent, Bromuscus succulentus being succulent. Now, another thing that you see is every names are you may see some things like this. Like here you have Fresh, you have FNIS. These are the authority. This means the short form, abbreviation of the names of people who named gave the names. And sometimes have them in two, one in parentheses. The first one means the first person first gave a name before the second person now maybe modified it based on certain other features. Now, when you do that, you don't throw away the efforts of the first person. So what you simply do is to include the first person name in parentheses, then your name comes after. Now, why do we need proper plant, not just about proper plant identification? If you don't know the name of the plant you're working with, you will not be able to communicate your research results. You won't be able to tell people about your products. That is one. Now, another one is the problem of common names. Now, I've seen so many people misidentify this our Osimum basilicum that we call curry, not Bratissimo now, the sister. Now, people call it curry everywhere in Nigeria and probably in Africa. You have seen, I've attended a conference where someone was presenting that he used this plant, he called it curry leaf, and what he's writing about is on Muraya koenji. Because what he simply did is, when you look at this picture here, when you go to Google and Google curry, it gives you Muraya koenji, and that is the name and is known anywhere in the world. But the person was working on Osimum basilicum. Now, have these common names that are similar to so many scientific names, and when people don't meet experts for proper identification, they will be misleading them. Because I told the young man that you just mislead people that just listening to you, because you're presenting a different plant and giving us literature on different plants. Now, can you imagine where you now order, for instance, curry? You tell someone in the US to supply you curry leaves, and a person supplies you Muraya koenji. And when you come back, after you have wasted, you have paid the person, you have spent on the flight and everything, and you see that you know what you ordered. It actually is what you ordered, but then it's not the right name that you gave. You see, you can imagine the damage. Or you're a farmer, you just prepared your soil, and you spent all the resources, and they send you these seeds, and you come there, and after it has grown, you see that it's not what you ordered for, what you wanted to order for. This is why you must identify any plant you are using properly before you'll be able to do that. Now, for better utilization, there are so many plants in the wild, even in ethnomedicinal practice, that people use that have good therapeutic properties, but then they are not properly identified. So you cannot utilize these plants if you don't have the names. You cannot be coming to talk about the local names or the common names. People will not understand what they're talking about. So you need a name that whenever you mention it, people in the North America, people in the Asian world, anywhere in the world, they won't understand what they're talking about. Now, there are, as I said before, there are features, most time morphological physical feature that you can see that will help you identify plants. Now, have the inflorescence. That is the longitudinal stalk that bears the flowers. And there are so many types. We cannot take them one by one because of time. We have the flower that can be monoecious or dioecious or hermaphrodite or so on. We have the stamen that can be free or united. And this varies across so many plants. And they are constant, that wherever you see them, you know that these things will be there. You have the leaf types that used most commonly, the arrangement of whether is opposite or alternate or wall, the shape, ovate, obovate, and so on. They have the latex. Some plants are able to produce latex, the whitish exudate in the latiferous cells. So there are some plants that can do that, some cannot do that. So if those the latex producing plants are a kind of taxonomic markers for them to be identified, that if whenever you see a plant that has at least a family of good families where your mind will edges, the staples, whether the staples also can, we now determine whether they are caducous. Caducous means that they are produced and shortly they fall off, or whether they are persistent. And the position of the staple also matter. Is it interpetiolar or interpetiolar? These are the things that you look at. Now, these examples of the leaf arrangement, you can see them there. The leaf morphological types, They have the inflorescent types. Actually, you have the spike type in Osmon gatisimun, one of our focus plants. I have paniculate type in Andrographis paniculatum. On the right side, you have different apices of leaves and also bases. These are all modifications, variations in leaf modification that you'll be able to know to use to identify plants. I talked about the latex. Now, this is a species of ficus. If you come across this plant, for instance, and you are now you cut one of the leaves, and you can see a whitish exudate. Now there are few families that your mind will go to. It could be Apocynaceae, it could be Moraceae, which this one belongs to actually, it could be Euphobiaceae, it could be Asclepiadaceae and others. Now, if you look at the staple here, and you see that at the apical side of the plant, the staple is still there. But when you look at the older parts, the staples are no more there. But there are scars that show that something was actually there. It shows you that it's Moraceae because they are known to produce latex, and again they have staples that are caducous. So that tells you the family. So even if you have not seen the plant before in your life, once you see the features, you have no doubt that this is Moraceae. You now begin to see how you can get to the genus and then the species. Now, there are so many ways you can identify unknown plants. Number one is use of identification apps. There are so many of them now in place. You have the picture dish, you have plant snap, and so many others. But the problem with this is that the people that developed them used plants that are not our plants. You get it? So you will be able to get reliable identification when you identify maybe exotic plants or introduced plants. You may be able to identify Artemisia Anoa, for instance, because not our individual plants. You may be able to also identify maybe Andrographis. But when it comes to our local plants, you have a problem because what they use, because before you can develop an app, you should be able to have at least taking pictures of the plant and so many morphological growth stages of the plant before you now upload it there and develop an app. So if your plant, if the app is developed from an area where, like what we have now, most of them are developed in the Western world, so they are not able to get our plants identified. Another one is by comparison with botanical gardens or herbarium. Now there are so many herbaria, like the Q herbarium that collected most of the West African plants, have been able to go on to develop what we call virtual herbarium or digital herbarium. Now they collected these plants and they prepared them in herbarium forms. And they now, at the point, they now began to think that if something happens, maybe something like fire incidents, that they're going to lose all this data that they spend so much money collecting. So what they did was to scan all the herbarium sheets and upload them and make them in form of a database, so that you can actually go there, type in the name of the plant in their search engine, and the picture of the herbarium sample will come out, and now be able to compare it with your plant. Then the most reliable way is using taxonomic key that will find in most flora. We're going to see how that works. Now, this is an example of identification of plant andrographis with the Q herbarium database. Now, you go there, you key in Herbal paniculatus, and you go to the image icon, you click on it by the left-hand side, and it shows this is a herbarium preparation of the plant. Now, when you now look at the two plants, you'll now be able to know whether they are the same. And by this picture, you see that they are the same. So you'll be able to self-identify your plant. Now we're going to look at the requirements, what the things that you need where you want to use the key, which I said is the most reliable method. They have to first of all have the knowledge of the plant description terminologies. You have to know, like I said, when a staple is caducous, when a plant a leaf shape is cordate, you have to. If you don't know these things, you will not be able to use the key. Now you need the plant, the sample they're going to identify, preferably in a complete form. Complete form means that it has to be fertile. There should be reproductive organ. The flowers and fruits or seeds are very helpful. Then you need a flora. A flora is a book, just like you have a pharmacopoeia or compendium, farm codex that gives you description of plants collected from that area. And they come with the taxonomic key. You see there's a trend, a link that the key simply asks you questions, these are questions that when you answer them correctly, they will eventually lead you to the name of the plant. They need at least a magnifying glass in hand lens, at least 10 times magnification, to be able to see tiny flowers or other features that are not easily seen with your eyes. Now, this example of the flora, this is the flora of West Tropical Africa. This is something that every botanic garden, every institution that deals on plants should have in their herbarium. Without it, you won't go far. You only know the plants that are already common, but then there are so many others in the wild that need identification. And if you have an expert who knows how to use it very well, you're going to identify any plant that you want. Then the flora can also come in form of, it can be, this is a general flora. They have the one that may focus on groups of plants. This one say lilies and orchids. They have flora of China, you have flora of so many other regions, South Africa and so on. Wherever you go to, if you find yourself in Asia, and you see any plant as a good plant as not means, you should be able to identify at least, get to the name of it. What you need is just to get the flora of that environment. And now, by the use of the key, you'll be able to now get to the name of the plant. Now, I'm going to do a little practical. This training is online. It's a bit difficult when it's online, when it comes to plant identification. But then I'm able to get some of the pictures. These are pictures of senna species. Now, these species are identified based on their presence of glands, secretory glands, and also number of leaflets, pairs of leaflets. We're going to see, we're going to take one. So if you are taking this first one that has, if you look at the circled area, you see a little outgrowth somewhere here that looks like just a little outgrowth there. It's called the secretory gland. Then if you see that this one has 3 pairs of leaflets, and these ones have more. This one is hairy. It has hairs, trichomes, and these two don't have. Now we're going to see how we can, assuming someone gave you this plant, if not met it before, how are you going to use the key to identify it? If it was physical, it's more, but then we're going to try and see what we can do. And I was able to select this one because it's more, it's easier, or features are more conspicuous and simple to understand. Now look at it. This one is a key to the families of plants. Now, if you go to the first question is there, it says the leaves bipinnate with staples or stapular spines. If the question is right, you just need to answer yes or no. Then if it's yes, which in this case is yes, you followed number 3. And that's why I marked good. Now, if you go to number 3, it asks you another question again. The first one is wrong. Then the second one is right for the plant. They will choose the family, which is Cicerapinaceae. Then if you click on this family, because the flora, the key has links that are connected. So once you click on that family, for instance, it's going to take you to the next slide, which is description, general description of the family. It tells you just for you to confirm that the plant you have is actually in this family. If you have read all these things and they are true of your sample, the next thing you do is to now go to see how you can get to the genus. Now, the first question says leaves simple or unifoliate. The answer is no. The second one says leaves come because the key comes is a dichotomous scheme, means that the questions are 2. Is either yes or no. Is either the first one is true or the second one is true. So the second one is true in this case. You pick number 9, and if you click on this 9, it takes you to number 9. And this is number 9. It says leaves one spinate, which is true of the plant. We go there to number 10. And number 10, if you could say bracteoles, not valvates, usually early caducous, leafless, alternate, or opposite. Now, that's why I say you must be able to know the meaning of the terminologies. If not, you won't be able to go far. Now, I go to number 11 and ask you another question, and it's true. Then you come to number 14. And you follow it that way until now you come to number 18. Now, where it says the petals 3 and it's not true. You look at your sample and it's not true. You go to the next one, it's a petal 5, stamens 10, fertile or partly abortive, fruits various, and it's true of the plant. You now know it's cassia. Now, in this flora is using cassia. Cassia is an old name, genus for senna. I chose this plant because it's well known in the medicinal practice and even in drug development. Now, if you choose senna, for instance, you click on it and it gets to the next slide. Now, you have now succeeded in getting the genus. What you're now looking for is the species. And when you come there, now the first question it asks you, you can see that it terminates in a name, which is true for all the descriptions. But that's not what we're talking about. They now go to the second one, number 2 is right. Now you go to the number 6, and it says, this is where I want us to pay attention to. It's a picture and brachys without glands. I was thought that the ones we saw there have glands, and it's not true. And it's a picture and brachys with conspicuous gland, and that is true. We go to number 16. And when we go to number 16, it says glands on the rachis are the insertion of the first or several pairs of leaflets. Let me quickly go back. Let's see them. So it says the gland is an insertion of first leaflet. This is here and here. It says first or several. In this plant, actually, you may see it here. I may see it here and in others. While in this place, you can see it only here toward the picture, not on the rachis. Now, if we answer that and we say is yes, we'll say number 17, and it's a leaflet 5 to 8 pairs. From what we saw there in the picture is not true. We will say no. Then when we come here, it's a leaflet 3 to 5 pairs, which is true. Or if more than seeds in seeds and fruits not subtodulous. Now take number 18. If we go to 19 again, it says fruits subcylindrical, which is not true. But fruits more or less compressed is true. And when you have read all these things, now when you come to the last paragraph, last sentence, it says gland at the insertion of the lowest, and that's what we have here. The lowest pair here and the 2 lowest pairs of leaflets. And when you see that you have now come to the end, and it says Tora, which means this is Cassia Tora or Senna Tora. Now, when you click on it, it gives you more information on the plant. It comes here just for you to confirm. Cassia Tora, it says, an undershrub. Now, see synonym, Senna Tora. Okay. An undershrub, 3 to 10 feet high.
You might need to round up.
All right, thank you very much. Now, you can see that you have successfully identified that if you now go back to other ones, you now take them one by one, and at the end, you'll be able to identify all of them, even when you have not been able to, even you have not seen them for the first time. Now, these are our focus plants, the Osmon Gallicimum and the Peniculatum, the Garcinia cola, Artemisia Anoa. Now, I'm giving in Osmon Gallicimum, you can see there is an erect plant, aromatic. If not aromatic, you know it's not it. It's a perennial herb, 1 to 3 meters tall, and these things and leaves opposite and so on. If you look at these things and you see that this is why I would not choose this one for the example, is because we have things that will talk about the flowers, the calyxes, and the internet. Now I talked about being 4-angled, the oldest, the stem, and this is here what you can see here. And the older stems are scaly, and I just took a picture and to show you here. Now, Andrographis is there also. Now, in Andrographis, in fact, in the family, how you identify them is having a capsule, the fruit in the form of a capsule, and you have the swollen node, whether it's Andrographis, whether it's Justicia, and so many of them. And you see that the leaves are lanceolate and all that. So if you look at all these things, I see that the flower that I have here is 2-lipped. So if they are not there and it's not the plant, and I know 2 ways about it. Now, plant verification is is more of field experience than theoretical knowledge. So you need someone, you need to be in the field, you need to use the key, and know the basic features. There are many terminologies. If you don't, you'll not be able to know those meanings and terminology, you'll not be able to get your plant correctly. And if you cannot identify your plant correctly, you cannot go far, whether in research, whether in development of drug or whatever, because you have to know the name before you can do that. Even in drug discovery, using Chemo Taxonomy, you'll be able to know that if you are looking for the particular compound and you cannot find that compound, that plant that is already known to possess that compound around you, the first thing is to look for a closest plant that now, maybe be in the same genus or the same family, that you know that it's possible that to have that same compound there because they are believed to have the same ancestral origin and consequently the same parasitic pathway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Felix, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. Now, questions. If you have any question, you can ask.
There is a question already on the chat box.
Okay. This one is coming from Judith Nwachuku, and she said, thank you, Mr. Felix. Aside from the Kiwi Herbarium, is there any repository or database where the details and annotations of already identified plants are stored? This is one question. And then another one said, is identification of plants based on morphology and chemical components conclusive? Where does molecular identification come in? Mr. Felix.
Now, thank you very much for the question. Now, the first question goes like, this is why I use Q Herbarium, because the staff at Q were the ones, Hutchinson and Co, were the ones that actually collected most of our West African plants. And that's where most of them are deposited. But there are so many other herbaria in the whole world. You have the Missouri State Herbarium, you have so many of them around the world. And most of them have already gone to virtual herbarium. It's unfortunate in Nigeria we've not had any virtual herbarium. That's one of the things I'm working on currently. Develop perhaps virtual herbarium of Nigeria herbarium. Now, when we will be able to do that, you'll now be able to go to the internet and identify your plant. Now, the second question says now morphology. Like I showed you here, where I listed the evidences from which you can get your taxonomic characters. And I mentioned morphology and I mentioned other things. And the last one says molecular systematics. This is why you have most of the plants' names changed, because their DNA sequencing have been done, carried out. And I've not been able to see that there are features that should not really be there, what we call parallelism in genetics. Some certain features that fail to diverge now run parallel. You now see that they are not, that means that they will not be misleading, the morphological confusion will not be misleading the person. But when you now go to the molecular systematics, you now see that this plant should actually be, like recently, you see plants that are in family Tidiaceae, Bombaceae, Malvaceae, are now under the one family, that's the Malvaceae, because the DNA data have shown that they should be really be in the same. They are not polyphyletic, so they should be in the same family. So molecular systematics is nice, especially in cryptic plants, and if I cryptic plants that are so much related. And in that case, you now talking about varieties. Plants that are considered as varieties or as cultivated plants. At that level, you see that the morphological characters may not be able to give you everything that you need. So that's why you have molecular systematics. So it's really important. But then, even after you have carried that DNA sequencing, you have to also come back to morphology to now be able to see, to correlate your results with the physical features of the plant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Felix. And I hope that answers your question, Judith Nwachuku. To our IT teams, please transfer back, remove Mr. Felix as the host so as to get ready for our next presentation. Now, a question we have here says, it was a bright presentation. Please, to simplify learning, how do you advise us to buy where do we buy the sachets? I don't know. I don't understand. Mr. Felix, do you understand the question?
I don't think this is related to my presentation.
Okay.
Sorry, I wanted to talk about gadgets, the gadgets to simplify learning. To simplify the learning.
Okay, no, see, I understand it now. Now, the gadgets I mentioned, the flora, like the flora of West Africa is free online. You can actually, search for it online, then you download it and have it in your system. The hand lens I mentioned also is there in the market, not so much expensive. You just need these simple things. Then the field collection material, they are all there, easily available.
All right. I hope that answers your question, sir. Now this one is coming. This one is coming from Emmanuel Obasi. He says, thanks for the presentation. Please, is the identification of genetically modified plants consistent with the natural plant of same species using morphological or cytological methods? Did you get the question, Mr. Felix?
Of course. Oh, yeah, of course. Whether it's genetically modified or not, the plant, the physical features are most times what the geneticists do is to improve maybe the yield of the plant. They don't change the morphological. The only morphological thing that can change maybe the size or maybe the color, but then other morphological features will be there. You understand? So because they are in the genes, except where you now go on to tamper with the genes that now replicate, that now manifest those characters. But if not, if you are looking at the yield to maximize profit, the other basic features will be there. It doesn't interfere with those ones.
All right, thank you, Mr. Felix, and I hope that answers your question, sir. Any other question?
Yes, I have some comment about the issue of botanical gardens. I think that's a major issue that those of us or people who have things to do with the policy dimension should look into. Before, when the Europeans were here, we had the Frin garden at Ibadan. We had the Samaru garden in Kaduna. We also had the Enugu Botanical Gardens. But these gardens have lost support. And these are things that are so essential that the only last time I realized that any taxonomical training of plant identification was done was a collaboration between us and the then Naseni, the Ministry of Science and Technology. And the same crop of scientists that were trained at that time are the ones who are left now in the place. I don't know, the older ones, just like Mr. Felix said, it's an art that we can only learn by experience. The other ones like Mr. Ozioko, Dr. Okafor, Kunle in Ibadan and others, they are all getting older, and I'm glad that young people like Felix are here. In Cameroon, I know the effort we made with the Limbe Botanical Gardens. And then as soon as we lost funding in Cameroon for Limbe, I don't think the government of Cameroon is giving the same status, the same impetus as Missouri Botanical Gardens and then Washington gave to Limbe. So the issue there that these are very important national heritage that we should be able to support so that we can have reliable sources of data. Thank you, Madam. I just thought this is important for us to make the point that these things are usually not as although they are not very public, but these are very serious issues in the science of plant identification. Like he mentioned, we still have to go back to Missouri, we go back to Q, we go back to the Germans, we go back there because our own are not well maintained. Thank you.
Many thanks, Professor Iwu, for that clarification. Any other question? All right. If there is no other questions, we'll be moving on to the next presenter. And the topic is available markets for organic medicinal plant material by Professor Maurice Iwu. Professor Maurice Iwu has, I don't even know where to start by recommending his biography, the awards and the lots of things he has achieved. Or Professor Maurice Iwu is the president of Bioresources Development Group, is a professor of pharmacognosy who have impacted life on healthy living and even economic-wise. Ladies and gentlemen, help me and welcome Professor Maurice Iwu as he will be taking us on the available market for organic medicinal plant material. Prof, you have the floor.
Thank you, Edith. Can I have the first slide? I will be speaking on available markets. You not see the word markets on medicinal plants. First of all, I want to make it very clear from the word go that money does grow on trees. You know, when we are growing up, parents will tell you, "Do you think that I'm plucking this money from the tree?" Yes, money can actually be plucked from the tree. There is about 500 billion naira a year on genetic resources as a whole. On eco-agriculture, that's the type that we are here at the organic food and beverages, is about 200 billion a year. And the growth rate is up to 10 to 40%, depending on the US, EU, and Japan. Here, people are still surviving by basics. So they're not as sophisticated to demand organic, but when you go overseas, there's a premium you pay for organic food. Dietary supplements is 122 billion a year, but mainly focus on 4 countries: America, that's the United States, Japan, Britain, and then recently in India. China has a lot of use in terms of traditional Chinese medicine, but when it comes to actual dietary supplement, they're not very good at that. But that's the 2 different things. Then the ecotourism is a niche market that is fast evolving. Next slide, please. Next slide. The market revenue at this stage of this depends actually what you put in. It's a highly sophisticated market. For us here in Nigeria, we have to find a nexus between ethnopharmacology, research, and then the market itself. If you don't understand the connectivity of this, you will really miss it. If you want, you can participate in various stages, as I will explain, but you have to be very clear in your mind what you are participating on, so that you don't expect apples from oranges and vice versa. Next slide. As I did mention, there are various returns on investment. There are various economic niches that you can do this. First of all, the dry plant material themselves can be sold as such, and they can also be processed as teas and capsules, just the way they are. No sophisticated instruments, no equipment. All you need to do is make sure that you are, as mentioned in terms of the plant itself, that you are really dealing with the right plant that you say you are dealing with. I know a couple here in Nigeria, they are really into very big export business on medicinal plant. They're not interested in what they do or what they don't do. All they do is to able to harvest, buy from people. They are actually what you may call aggregators. They just aggregate the plants. They don't cultivate, but they make sure that the plants are cultivated right and they sell. And their main trade actually only in America and Japan, and they are doing very well. Then the other aspect is the extracts and tinctures. You can then be able to have fractions and then formulations that are unique to you, and then you can sell those. Then the more sophisticated area is isolated active compounds. We are not into that at all, just like we are not into chemical cities or drugs. I keep making a joke of the pharmaceutical companies that we do not have one single pharmaceutical company in Nigeria from the technical sense of the word. For you to be a pharmaceutical company, you have to be able to make what we call a pharmacon, or the active pharmaceutical ingredient. But not many of our companies here have that capacity or capability whatsoever. And most of parts of Africa is only to some limited extent in Egypt and South Africa. And suddenly there's something happening in Ghana. But those are the 3 that I know of, people who are selecting active compounds as a business. We at Bion recently started doing that. We did have some isolated compounds that are for two conditions, but those are mainly by contract. We're isolating alstonine for a company, and we're also trying to get some artemisinin also, because those need a lot of value added, but they are where the real meat of the business is. Then lastly, but not the least, is the chemical modifications. Some of the chemical modifications, they sound big, but they are not really as big as that. For example, artemisinin is hardly used as anti-malaria directly. It has been modified, and it is that modification which we call artesunate that is used. So if you don't know how to do that simple conversion, there's no way nobody will buy that artemisinin from you and use it directly, because it is the modification product that, except now that we're trying to do a clinical trial of 500 milligram artemisinin that we can then start talking about using it directly. Next slide. So what I'm trying to explain there is that the different stages of the map, including the collection, the cultivation, the processing, the marketing, value addition and manufacturing, each stage has its own form of business, and it can be an exclusive enterprise. I try to also recap what I mentioned earlier in terms of the business sector for us in Africa, that we are having about 2.53 billion, just Africa alone, by 2014. By next year, it is reckoned that it will be about 4.82 billion. And that's enough industry to keep all of us busy in terms of the sector. Next slide. Next slide, please. We have to understand the market structure and then how it is segmented. It is not a fluid market. It has segments, and you have to be able to appreciate what angle of the market you want to play in. The first component are those that are used as food and used in local traditional medicine products. Those ones are simple. They are usually edible plants. Because of the limitations, you cannot be dealing with actual poisonous medicinal plants. It has to be things that are readily used, like neem, as I mentioned, osimum, ginger, and stuff like that. Then there are the second stage, those that are used in preparations of formulated packaged products. They're usually things that are listed by bodies that are responsible for the regulation of medicines. Once you are going to that category, then some onus is on you to be able to make sure that all the necessary post-harvest requirements are met. Because, for example, if you are selling medicinal plants for this particular purpose, it is essential that you must make sure that there are no added products in it. If, for example, you have weevils in it, it may then generate a compound that was not in the original formulation that you made. And that particular compound will now have toxicity that you didn't ever envisage. Or if the materials were carelessly collected, you then have a situation in your hands where, because you have done it that way, then you have a problem. I have one example, for example, in our own company, once we did transport andrographies from our farm at Kuje in Abuja to Imo State. On the way, it rained heavily. It was a lorry load of andrographies, but we had to condemn the entire delivery. Reason at that time was because of that rain having fallen, and they left out the cover proper, so that we knew that the period of drying of that material will not be fast enough for us to be able to retain the active component on it. Not because something went definitely wrong with it, but because we are not sure of the integrity of that biomass. We had to totally get that out of the way. Then there is the test segment. These are specialty crops that are often in pharmacopoeias. For example, the last speaker mentioned senna and all that. Senna is senna, whether it's made in Nigeria or made in Egypt, but they have to be made sure that it falls within the pharmacopoeia standards. If you are also having to deal with things like aloe vera and all that, it is aloe vera, yes, but you have to make sure that those specifications, and there are a lot of monographs that have been prepared. Luckily for us in Africa, the standard organizations in the continent came together through ASO, African Regional Standard Body, to now have a standard that we have to obey. So those are the three segments that we must have to bear in mind before we try to get into this market. Next slide. Next slide. Sorry, it must be network giving him. Yeah, so then there are market characteristics for each of those markets. Luckily for us, the level of imports into this sector, unlike the pharmaceutical, right now it is still only 12.3% of medicinal plants that are actually brought from outside, whereas local production is 87.7%. So that which means there's a whole lot of market internally, and we can also reverse the recent trade. But most of the export trade in Nigeria for now are mainly plants that are used for food, and they are usually sold to our brothers and sisters in Europe and the US who use them for food, not necessarily in terms of medicine. Then there is a characteristic in terms of those, remember that group that I mentioned in the other slide, things like Rawophia vomitoria. The market is still huge, but we don't have people who are cultivating them on commercial level. Then there's also a market for ginger. Nigerian ginger is very peculiar because it is used both for confectionery industry and for the food industry. For Nigerian ginger, actually, there are two varieties. There is the Kaduna-based variety and then the Umuahia type. So those two Nigerian ginger, they call one Jamaican ginger and one Nigerian ginger. So you have to know which one you are playing at. And then andrographies, there is a whole market for them. Aloe vera, cola nitida, both the proper cola and the other cola, and moringa. So these are very well established plants, and there are I think 45 of them. Those can be cultivated. We don't mind whether they are utilized locally or not, because there's enough export market for them, and they are globally need for them now, so that people can really make money dealing on those ones alone. Next slide. So my talk actually is how do you transform knowledge into wealth? What are the criteria? What are the things you bring your knowledge of plants and then transform it into how you can make money with them? I will give few examples and then still go on the fundamentals so that people can then develop their own business acumen in terms of the medicinal plant. Next slide. Now, all I've been saying I put is here in some kind of graphics. The first one on the left-hand side, the A, is when you have the grower, collector, processor, or healer directly dealing with the patient. The patient, remember, is the customer here. So that one, you can keep your secret, like people want to say, I have a plan for diarrhea, I have a plan. You can grow it, but that's a little part-time business. There are herbalists, people who like to say that father, they're into herbs, they like herbs and all that, but that's not a business. It is a vocation. It is some hobbies. It is something people like. So that can happen. People say that they'll tell their neighbors that the andrographies, for example, people can sweat by it, and it works for treatment of high blood sugar. That one is direct from patient. So there's a lot of business people can do in their neighborhood on that. Then the category B, people who are growers and collectors who pass through processors and sellers. There are people who you know in markets who sell medicinal plants. They are not growers, they are not farmers. All their job is they are at the secondary level of processor seller. That is the second category B. And then those ones then deal with the healer, they can deal with the buyer, they can deal with patients, and then they can also deal with people who just like herbs. So that is one category. You must also decide on your own which category you belong to. Then the C category are those who are grower collectors. They say to primary people who process it. Then there are secondary middlemen, and then there are retailers, and then there's go. You see, at the end of the day, apart from the first person who is the patient, that the whole thing goes back to the consumer, to the patient, is the ultimate market that you are trying to reach. Forget the people who are in between. You have to target in your mind that you are dealing with the buyer, patient at the end of your loop. Then the D is where people like us come in, the industrial level growers. You grow, you primary process it, then you sometimes do through middlemen, and then you do either you agree whether you are going to do exporting or you are going to do secondary metabolized processing through the national grid, in which case you can say to people, when we are having our production issue with detox seeds, we did have somebody is when we're having detox tea production during the height of the COVID-19. Somebody is hello.
Mute their mic.
Floor, if you need to mute your mic, please.
Can I continue? Can I continue?
Yes, Prof.
Okay, so during the, as I was saying, when we were having the COVID-19 era, we were forced to buy andrographies from middlemen and then from farmers. That is where they will fall into category D. And then the category E is still a single producer who follow the same process and then able to go through the people who are. So you have to decide what you want to do. Then the beauty here, I use the E and F together to be able to illustrate the point I want to make here. If you can be a grower, you don't necessarily have to have anything to do with processing. You can sell to the primary processors. And then that is itself is a business. If you want to now go ahead to now make a product from it, that's also there. But a situation where you want to be a full spectrum producer, grower, processor, and to the patient, it is a big undertaking. And each stage of the process, and that is why when you see a BDCP or Bioresources Development Group having many companies, it's not because each of those companies are big, but because each of these undertaking has to be specific and has to be seen as a modular. So those are the segmentations you have to, apart from the patient consumer, all these other ones are businesses that can be done to be able to generate funds. Next slide, please. Next slide, yes. So I now want to give example for what I've just said from, I just chose some few medicinal plants to make the point. Afromemum melemelegrata, the alligator pepper. If you are just trying to sell it to your neighbor, like I showed in the first price, it will fetch you only a few naira. But the export price for the dry seed ranges from $650 dollars to $700 per 100 kilogram of bag. If you actually dry it in a particular manner so that the fragrance will come out very cleanly, it even fetches more than that. There is a plant called Seki Cola, Azanza gakiena. This is the only known plant that is being used as a female aphrodisiac. It's selling greatly in the internet, and about 20 of them in a 2-gram sachets, selling up to $16 per pack of 20 of the nuts, and people are buying. So the issue here, you have to develop your market and know what you are really doing. And then the other example I gave is Tetrapura tetrapetra, or the Yoruba called the Prekesi. This is the oyokoyo in Igbo, which is a plant that usually used when you are trying to prepare postpartum soup for women after delivery. And it's also very good in making a lot of pepper soup. It is sold mainly to the immigrant communities in Europe and America from West Africa. When I talk West Africa, I mean West and Central Africa, because Cameroonians also buy it in those places. It's a very expensive plant. And if you can dry it very well and send, you sell it about $30 per 8 ounces of dry fruits. And when you powder it, even it sells more at 50. Just the process of powdering adds another $20 to the price. Next slide. Next slide. The other one is the bitter leaf. I have two major pricing issues with them. One is that if you have the leaves and you sell it in the ethnic shops, it fetches you about $5 for each 2 kilograms of leaf, which is by far higher than what you can buy it here. But now Some American companies have they have now have Velonia in capsules. The capsule is sold at $65 for a small quantity of capsules that are only 100 capsules of 500 milligrams. When you convert it, you can see that they're making a whole lot of money based on that. The same thing goes for Ivingia gabonensis obono. And then obono seeds is selling, fetching so much money now because people are really interested in what the obono does, both for its weight loss properties and also for other uses which people put obono seeds to. So the price for that one depends on the quality and then the quantity you're able to supply. Now, recently, people are now looking at the obono itself, the fruit, as a juice making fruit. A lot of drinks are available, about 7 of them commercially available outside us here. The last one I gave as an example, there are as a 43 or so plants that are in commercial need outside Nigeria is Moringa oleifera. Again, luckily, a Nigerian company based in the US, Nigeria in St. owned by Nigerian, they have a Moringa development company and they are selling a whole lot of materials. The problem here is that if we can be focused on these issues, you see a lot of people talking about that they're interested in medicinal plants, but they like to be spoon-fed, not by word of criticism and so on. Most of we're essentially a lazy bunch in where we come from here, Africa as a whole. When you look at most of these things, because it needs a little bit of work, not many people are interested in that. So in a sense, the market for medicinal plants, the markets are huge, but it is not a market that you stay at home and the market will come to you. You must be able to go to the market because the market is out there, but you must leave your comfort zone and approach the market. Thank you, moderator, for giving me the time to make this presentation, and thank the audience for listening. I'll be glad to welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Maurice Iwu, for that wonderful presentation. Now it's time for questions and answer. If you have your question, you ask. You know how we've been doing it. Okay, coming from Edith Osadebe, she asks, where can I get the 2 types of Nigerian ginger? Prof.
Yeah, as I said, one is mainly in our ginger capital is Kaduna. One is mainly in Kaduna. The other one is that's for in the more water, the more rainforest belt. That's the Umaya, Owerri, Port Harcourt axis. Up to, I think, even up to Oka, you can, and Ijebu, the area, you can get the water-based ginger type. But the one that is Kaduna is really a huge market. And what is so sad is that the processing is not done here, but a whole lot can be done in the processing. We are in our own group, we grow our own ginger, but we grow mainly from the Kaduna variety. And then because it serves our purpose in terms of ginger oil and then all that. I know ginger itself, for some reason, even although it is pungent and all that, the insects love it too. They eat on it as soon as the level of the volatiles go down. They attack it very, very viciously. So it's something that the processing and the care have to take in. But those are the 2 sources of this. The one is our upland, the drier season, and the one is lower. But in countries like Morocco and Co, I think it's only one type that they're able to cultivate, and that's the Kaduna variety. But in pharmacy, you know that there are 2. They always talk about Nigerian ginger and Jamaican ginger. That's essentially what they mean by those. But we are luckily here, we have the 2 varieties in the country.
Thank you very much, Prof, for that wonderful answer. And I hope that answers your question, ma'am. A question says, does Bioresources Development Group offer physical training? If yes, I need more information. Prof.
So far, the HerbFest have been done. The trainings it's only within these last 2 years that we are doing online. I remember the last time we were in Lagos, it was physical. People attended the workshop. As I said, we also do people we train the first time the plant experts to be able to identify plants. But with something as soon as the COVID era passes a little bit, I think we can go back to that.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. I hope that answers your question, sir. Now, next one from those persons said, nice presentation, Prof. How can we get buyers, Prof?
That's the point I made about going to the market. For example, when we needed andrographies, we did advertise, and then a lot of people came to us. But some people will want you to literally go to them. That's where the aggregators come in. People have to use the methods available to us, use the internet, make calls, and so on. There are a few companies that make products in Nigeria that need those kind of information. For example, when we knew about Professor Obona's Artemisia project, we contacted him. But as I said, the other way around, it also should be done by people making themselves more available so that the off-takers go on. We do a lot of business with foreign companies, not in terms, because we don't supply raw material, but in terms of knowledge. We do contract research for people and so on, not because we are best, but because they know about us. So if you don't make these things known, nobody will come. Because one of the issues, or two issues that are involved in buying from us, two things. One is unreliable source of a supply. They'll start something and you cannot meet up with the demand, and that means that the source base was not properly conceived. The second issue is that the issue of post-harvest that Edith mentioned. We have a situation where when you buy something that is our own, like shea butter from Europe fetches premium price because it doesn't contain insects, it doesn't contain insect parts, and it's very clean. Our careless post-harvest makes it that people will not take the risk of taking our products. Instead, they will take the one from Europe. Europe, they don't have shea butter, but most people who don't want the headache, they go to Europe, who are primary processors of shea butter. The same thing goes for our legumes and so on that are being discriminated against in Europe. This simple thing that just drying it to less than 5% of water content so that it will not deteriorate, it will not contain aflatoxins. Simple post-harvest medicine, it does not, we don't obey it. So we want a situation where we want to lazily produce our products and then somebody come and buy. No, it doesn't happen that way at all. So the markets are there, but you have to be prepared for the market. Just like we go to the local market, dress up for it. Dressing up for it, I mean, is preparing for it. And then go to the market by telling people what you have to offer. But most times, suppliers from Africa have been disappointing. The only countries that take it so seriously and are doing well is actually Kenya and the former Congo Republic. But now, because of their unrest, they cannot meet. South Africa has very good medicinal plant farms and then aggregators and marketers. Thank you.
Many thanks, Prof, for that wonderful answer. This one is coming from Professor Alphonsus. He said, on exportation of our raw materials for research in the US, can you help with information on how best to do this without the terrible bottlenecks we encounter with the agric and custom officers?
Yeah, that is a major problem. Yes, that's a major problem. I think you have to ahead of time contact the port quarantine, plant quarantine services. Okay. I think the Ministry of Agriculture, if you can tell them ahead of time so that they know. But some can be so frustrating, particularly for research. We had a situation where I think a plant that grows mainly in Bauchi, the scientists concerned contacted people from Bauchi, and the agriculturists were helping them. Suddenly, there was no communication whatsoever, because they now say that you have to get the permit from the governor's office. How on earth will you convince somebody in America? So when the company concerned actually medicine told us about it, we tried our best, but we found that that there was no communication. You write letters, nobody replies you. But it's not just plant quarantine services. It's all throughout. That's why I said we are essentially a lazy bunch. You write somebody a letter, you will not reply. But because of lack of education, they don't understand that we're all concerned. That's why I can't stop praising the Raw Material Research and Development Council here, because their proactive initiatives in various sectors have been very helpful. I mentioned earlier in our own presentation that when we had issue with sourcing the andrographis material, even this training component of HerbFest was largely because they saw the need for it. And then so if our people can be educated, and I'm asking us not to get tired of educating and educating, if our people can be made to understand that the FDA in the US, for example, when you see them from far, you think that they are a prohibitive organization. No, they're actually helping to safeguard the American life and business. Because the pharmaceutical company that once has FDA approval, it's a big business for them. When you now look at their customs, they're also gatekeepers, not allowing things. So if everybody will be on board, knowing that BDG, yes, you may think that you are making us better, but that whatever we are doing helps Nigerian economy, helps Nigerian nation, and so also the other groups, the other companies. As I made a case for FRIN, for example. FRIN, for example, should be seen as a national asset, a national center, a place we should all, the same thing goes with Samaru, Zaria. We don't have any place like that outside there. And as I mentioned to you that when we worked in Cameroon with Limbe, after the Second World War, it was literally, after the First War, it was literally abandoned when the Germans left Cameroon. It took the British IUCN funded program. And when I was with the US military, we had a project, and for us to reactivate that botanical garden. These things have to be seen as national assets. We don't have places like Limbe in West and Central Africa, not at all. So such kind of places have to be. So I understand what you say, Prof, but it's a major problem in terms of how they stop these things from happening the way they should happen in other parts of the world. Thank you.
Many thanks, Prof, for that wonderful answer to that. So many questions are still coming in, but we have exhausted our 10 minutes for question and answer. For those of you that your questions are not attempted to, you can have access to Prof personally. You can you can connect to the people. You can make inquiries from the flyers on this training, Miss Rebecca, or either myself, Miss Edith. Our numbers are there, and maybe you might be included to a WhatsApp platform where your questions like this can be answered, and more values, you can get them from there. I believe Prof is a very busy person, but he is always available for dishing out this kind of value. Many thanks again, Professor Maurice Iwu, for that wonderful presentation. And moving on to the next one is a practical and workshop practical section, which Mr. Amos Ede will be taking us on that. Mr. Amos Ede, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
All right, thank you. You have the floor.
Hello, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
Next workshop on the practical demonstration on the organic farming. Now, this is a practical demonstration, not like a theory work. I'll list the area I will demonstrate, not in a physical measure, but photos. We'll look at the soil and climate and nursery raising, planting, land operation, the manure application and transplanting. Also, we'll look at the and weeding, the pesticide and irrigation applications, harvesting and post-harvesting operation, and yield. Now, I will start from the site selection. I'll look at the site selection. Actually, the slide I have here, not actual site selection. Please, can you show me the next slide? This one is different from one other one. The one you showing is my first. Okay. Well, thank you for showing it. First of all, this is a nursery area. Most of the farmers don't know how to do nursery. Some people can pour seed one place. When you look at this nursery area, the seed are scattered, not as putting it one seed, putting one seed in two seeds in one place. Now, when you look at this field for this nursery, the seed is well scattered, and uniform spacing is there. Actually, in some people can pour seed, the 10 seed can germinate in a 1 point. But when you look at this field, nurse area, seed will not germinate differently without attaching each other. Now, the actual nursery, when you look at this basket, the seed is well scattered in the way that the clustered area we look at here is only 3 places, which can be thinned at certain age. But at this age now, you can't thin this nursery because when you thin it, it means that the ceiling will not survive. After you have looked at the nursery, the compounded area, I look at how we can thin it. Like during my first, I said that the pricking or thin and supplying in a space that not clustered is encouraging in nursery practice. Now, after, next slide, please. Please, next slide, please. Next one. Next slide. Now, this is our farm at Okigwe, not this one, the one that's housing beside the farm. Go back, please. Okay. This is a picture that we are trying to demonstrate after the nursery preparation. Next thing we'll do is transplanting. This is one of our farm attendants. Our farm in Okigwe is transplanting on ridges. Because of the dry season, if the dry season, we don't plant on ridges. We plant on the flat land because of so that it can water the farm and the water retention after watering. Because in these ridges now, when you plant in rain season now, it can survive. But in the dry season, we don't encourage farmers to plant in ridges. We encourage farmers to plant in a bed, flat land, make the bond where water can hold. But this is the rainy season. That's why you can plant on ridges. The farmer that tried to plant seedling in the farm. Next slide. Okay, this is also a farmer that tried to plant seedling in the line. This is a flat land. There's no ridge here. Just after plowing, harrowing, 02 operation, if you are using machine for cultivation, after the plowing, the harrowing will end the land preparation. The farmer can start planting it in a line. Sometimes, if you cannot maintain the line, he can use rope, twine, mark from the beginning to the end of the field. He can plant it in a line. When he finishes that line, he can shift the line to another portion so that he can maintain correct measurement of the planting. That for the transplanting. Next slide. Now, after you might have transplanted, next thing you expect your plant to develop. This is a robust and development stage where the leaves they are growing well, they're flowering, they're forming pods for people that are interested in seed production. That's for the development of the plant you are looking at. Now, this next slide, please. This is another field that was planted with Absitume. That's St. Leaf, I think his name. This is a field. One look at it. The field is healthy, robust, and we do have for harvesting. It has started producing anthers and flower at the same time. But it will affect it at this stage. Next slide. Yes. This is another stage. This man here, he tried to cut the plant so that the plant will start having a regrowth for next harvesting. This is a mature field. This field is a mixture of, this is an experiment plot that planted with Osum santum, and Basculum. These are 3 species of Osum planted in the same portion for experiments. The farmers tried to do cutting to look at the growth potential of each species of Osum. After cutting it, the research we do here is so that you can know the best species that have the growth potential. That's what he tried to do here and cut it. Next slide. Now, this is the anniversary. We should look at closely. You see the flower and pod formation. Now, for you to get seeds of undergrowth weeds, don't wait until it started drying. There will be some edges, if they are already matured, not actually the pod will dry before you start harvesting it. One look at this, the one that close to the flower is already matured, the other one also matured, the seed is already matured. It's not as young age, they can leave it. When you leave the pod of undergrowth weed in the field, it is split. You can't get it. This is the best age you can get the seeds. Next slide. Next slide. Also, this is an effect because what you are looking at, most farmers find it difficult to get seeds of oats. Even if in a farm that have to produce vegetable, there's some plants you leave to flower and have some nutland seeds so that you can get the seeds for next season planting. If you want to leave your ocean, this is the best age. Like ocean santum, when you leave it to dry, the seed will drop on ground and become, you can't get seed again. But then this is the best state you can harvest ocean santum or ocean basculum. At the same time, with ocean grassroom at the same time. When you leave this, you can get the seed and harvest it and process it for next season planting. This.
We're not hearing you again.
Next slide. Okay. Next slide is showing zobo plant. This is from our farm, we cultivate zobo in the large quantity. This year, we have up to 5 hectares zobo in our farm. This is the state that we normally harvest zobo petals. At this age, you harvest the flower and remove the seeds, and still get the seed for next year planting. Next slide. Like after cutting the stem, the farmer will sit down and start open the petals, the flower, and remove the seeds from the petals. They start separating it differently so that they will get the seeds at the same time get what? The flower for the zobo production. Next slide. Now, this is how the farmers sorting it in the north. Because this is the laborers used to buy during sorting it out. You sort it out, remove if there's any chaff, grass, any that this stage what's called post-harvest techniques. You have harvested everything. You want to make the zobo to be pure. so the buyer or the retailer, they can easily buy it without complaining. Next slide. Now, after sort it out, the farmers will bag it, different size of bag. Next slide. Now, this is the laboratory in Usuka, where we process the zobo tea in our factory in Umona. This is how the another stage of processing it. Farmer, the people that are processing it, they wear skin clothes so that they won't contaminate the material. Thanks for listening. Next slide. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ede, for that wonderful section. Thank you very much. Now, the next thing we will have is a recap by Mr. Emmanuel Obasi. Mr. Emmanuel Obasi is the production facility manager at Bioresources Institute of Nigeria. He's also a PhD scholar in medical biochemistry at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Edith. You have
Thank you,
done
sir.
a very wonderful work in moderation of the second day of HerbFest 2021. Today we started with an interesting topic, the principles of organic cultivation of medicinal and aromatic plants and their conservation. Here we use Artemisia, Anoa, Garcinia cola, Andrographis paniculata, and the Ocimum gratissimum as examples for today's presentations. So we received the first presentation from Mr. Amos Ede, who actually gave an overview presentation on organic cultivation of medicinal plants. Here, Mr. Ede made us to understand the steps that are being involved in cultivation of medicinal plants to ensure normal growth, development, and a high yield. Here he talks about land preparation as a very fundamental issue, the type of soil that is required for cultivation of different medicinal plants, the climatic condition necessary for such a preparation. And he talks about a method of propagation where he mentioned two methods. That propagation can either be done by seed or using the vegetative method of propagation. He also emphasized on the importance of nursery raising or preparation, and some of the conditions that should be followed to ensure a good nursery and transplanting of medicinal plants. So here he emphasized on appropriate method of sowing to ensure quick germination. Watering of nursery should be done gently to prevent damage of the seedling. And also there is need for the population of the nursery seedlings, especially when they are much clustered, to avoid unhealthy competition during early growth. So pruning of roots may be necessary in some cases to allow normal growth and development. Then he emphasized using Andrographis paniculata, that a transplanting can be done after 6 weeks after sowing of the plants. He also delved into conservation of medicinal plants, where he talks about the use of natural reserve forest as a means of conservation of some key medicinal plants. He also mentioned the use of seed banks among others. We move into the second presentation, still on the same topic, cultivation of aromatic and medicinal plants. The second topic presenter here was Dr. Onawumi O. Adeyinka of Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria, Ibadan. Dr. Onawumi did a justice on organic cultivation of Andrographis paniculata, commonly known as a king of bitters. In her highlights, she emphasized on organic cultivation being a method of cultivation that is purely natural, which does not involve the use of organic fertilizers, inorganic fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers, and the pesticides. But here she made us to understand that organic cultivation involves the use of organic or natural constituents, ingredients for farming, such as farmyard manure, green manure, and some natural pesticides, such as neem leaves, cow urine, rabbit urine, and so on, to prevent a contamination of the medicinal plants. So focusing on cultivation of Andrographis paniculata, she considered the importance of soil type. And here she made it clear that sandy loam or clay loam soils is very suitable for cultivation of Andrographis under a very good climatic condition, which must be hot and humid. Condition of the climate can be very favorable for cultivation of Andrographis paniculata. She also delved into propagation of Andrographis, where she made mention of two methods, the seed and the vegetative methods. But here she emphasized that for commercial production or cultivation of Andrographis, it is preferable to use a seed propagation method because of its economic nature and also ability to have a whole sum of seed for propagation. So there are some steps that are involved in cultivation of Andrographis according to Dr. Onawumi. First, you must prepare the land preparation by ridging or bed formation, and then nursery preparation using the ratio of 1:1:1 for soil, sand, and organic matter. And here, germination of Andrographis can take up to 8 to 10 days. Then transplanting is done after 6 weeks of sowing. There may be need for thinning and weeding. That is to give the plant normal opportunity for growth. This could be done at least 2 to 3 times, 20 days and the 60 days intervals. That's after the transplantation. For manure and the pesticide application, organic fertilizer is recommended, and that is the use of farmyard manure, green manure, and all the rest. And biopesticides, such as neem leaves, cow urine, rabbit urine, moringa extract, Andrographis extract can be used to prevent the growth of fungus and other microorganisms which may affect the normal growth of Andrographis paniculata. There is need for irrigation and watering to ensure normal growth of the seedlings. Fairly distributed rainfall is also a very important factor here. And in the absence of rain, there may be need for 2 to 3 irrigations, that is watering of the seedlings prior to rainfall. Then talking about the harvesting of Andrographis, harvesting is usually done at the maturity stage, and this stage is characterized by initiation of flowering. Once the plant begins to flower, then is a sign that it can be harvested. the Andrographis matures days of matures after days of sowing. Do not harvest all. Yeah, this is a very important take home we must learn in the cultivation of Andrographis. Most time you'll be forced to get the money and at the same time harvest everything that you have. And next year you start looking for seed. So that's why Dr. Naomi advised here that we should not harvest all. There might be need to remain some stands so as to create room for regeneration for the next farming. And according to the presentation, the yield of Andrographis is within the range of 3.5 to 4 tons of dry leaves, dry house per hectare of land. There are some health benefits mentioned by Dr. Naomi in the report, which include antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral effects, anti-cancer, antibacterial, immune regulatory effects, among others. And that takes us to the third presentation by a renowned professor, Professor C.I.C. Ubunna, who presented on cultivation of Artemisia annua. Prof. Ubunna actually gave a robust presentation, which put into consideration some of the factors needed for cultivation of Artemisia annua. That is the plant that harbors the active ingredients artemisinin for production of ACT drugs for treatments of malaria. He talks about the time of planting. He says an annual and biannual house. They are commonly found in highlands, that's Artemisia annua. For instance, in Plateau, he said the plant should be planted close to the river, or it requires adequate rainfall, water, or during rainy season. The soil type suitable for cultivation of Artemisia, sandy and loamy soil, and the soil must be slightly alkaline or acidic. Then the method of pollination here of Artemisia annua is natural pollination by insects and wind. And in cultivation here, one of the steps requires the land preparation and the nursery planting. And for nursery here, the propagation is done using the seed, and the germination takes place 3 to 6 days after sowing. And here, transplanting is done 3 to 6 weeks or 11 weeks of sowing for field operation. So the land preparation is done in ridges or beds prior to the beginning of the rain. The nitrogen content should be within the range of 67 kg per hectare. There should be adequate irrigation to avoid early flowering, which may affect the yield. Finally, yield and harvesting of the leaves of Artemisia annua is done to get adequate quantity of artemisinin, which is the active compound for malaria treatment. So the leaves are harvested by stem cutting and dried at room temperature or dried in a shed, properly stored to prevent loss of the active compound artemisinin. Some of the health benefits include treatment of malaria, COVID-19, among other uses. Professor Ubunna presented Artemisia annua as a very lucrative and a plant with a high economic value, with a very, very appreciable exportation income when converted in dollars. In conclusion of his presentation, Professor Ubunna concluded with a quote that malaria must die for millions of Nigerians suffering from malaria to live. And he also encouraged the organic farmers to join the National Association of Artemisia Farmers so as to partake in the ongoing project of Artemisia annua cultivation, which is of high demand at the global market. Then we move to the fourth presenter. And the fourth presenter in today's in today's section of the conference is no other person than our humble moderator for the day, Ms. Edith Ezema, a plant scientist who justified the topic, harvest and post-harvest techniques. Here, Ms. Ezema pointed the importance of a time of harvest with reference to the quantity and the quality of the active ingredients of phytochemicals in medicinal plants. Here, she made us to understand that the harvesting involves removal of economic parts of a particular plant after maturity. She also made reference to relevance of harvest time with the active constituent content. Harvest at optimum growth stage is recommended, and the harvested plant material should be stored at room temperature in a dry condition. She cited some examples of some medicinal plants in different categories and their time of harvesting. Here she used examples like bulbs, bark, rhizomes, leaves, flowers, seeds. When the plants are bearing flowers. So Ms. Edith Ezema also
Hello, sir, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes,
all
sir.
right.
We can hear
So,
you, but quickly, can you try to round up because we
all right, okay. So she concluded by listing the post-harvest operations. And finally, we move into the 50th presenter, Mr. Felix Nwafo, who actually presented on plant identification. And here, the conclusion of his presentation tried to give us the importance of plants identification to ensure quality, safety, and efficacy of medicinal plants. According to Mr. Felix, wrong identification of plants may affect both the quality, safety, and efficacy, which is not recommended in the scientific world. Then finally, we have a presentation from our own daddy in the house, Professor Maurice Iwu, the president of Bioresources Institute of Nigeria, whom I will describe as the father of modern African herbal medicine. And the prof treated a topic, available markets for organic medicinal plant materials. Here he started by giving a statement which, unquote, money does grows from trees and in forests too. And here he encouraged the organic farmers to invest in cultivation of medicinal plants, and also open their eyes to tap into the available market within the globe. So he cited cases of some plants, major medicinal plants in global commerce, where he mentioned Afromoma meligata, Azanza, Garcinia, that's Siki cola, alligator cola initially, and Tetrapleura, Tetraptera, the Venonia amygdalina, our bitter leaf, Moringa oleifera, and also Artemisia Anoa, as some of the lucrative and economic valued medicinal plants that are of high demand within the market. And Prof concluded his presentation by using a very important quote, which says, the market is there, but you must leave your comfort zone to approach the market. And he encouraged the farmers not to be lazy, but to take a step forward to approach the market and then make their money. And the last presenter in today's section, Mr. Amos Ede, who demonstrated a practical workshop on organic farming, where he talks about the soil, the climate, how to raise nursery, land preparation, manure application, pesticides operation, thinning and weeding, and then finally, harvest and post-harvest techniques. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we saw it in the second day of HerbFest 2021. Thank you and remain blessed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Obasi. That was a wonderful recap that you did there. And I believe that with this recap, anybody that didn't join from beginning will be able to get all that have been discussed today. And this brings us to the end of this training. And we say to our wonderful participants who participated in this training, we are grateful, thank you, and we hope you got value. So our team, our team, please help me display the flyer for this training. There are people that ask questions. If you want to have access to any of us, you can ask your question through Miss Rebecca. You can ask your question through me, Miss Edith, or you can ask to Prof. direct and it will be answered. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Prof, and all the presenters. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let me join in thanking those of you who stayed to the end, and also to pick on where the able moderator stopped, namely that you can contact us through the Facebook. I believe this discussion will continue on Facebook so that we can all have issues that you think were not, the question that were not answered during this session. Then the other thing is that we do have WhatsApp groups. One is on medicinal plant cultivation and value chain. The other one is directly on healthy living. So the two of them are open. And if you join through the Facebook, I think we can share all that with you. Thank you again, and thanks everybody and those that work behind the scene, the able team that put this together. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Please, can we have the link for the WhatsApp groups?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Thank you once
Thank
again.
you for doing a good job.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. So if I don't know how we can share the WhatsApp group. The HerbFest one is on now. If you go into the Facebook, you can get into the Facebook account. Then if you get the Facebook account, then you can get on. We can share the link through there. I think the link was shared earlier through the chat platform. I don't know. I think it's on. The Facebook account is on the chat platform. So if you can get that, so that they will post the WhatsApp link through there too. Ms. Rebecca, can we put the WhatsApp through the
BDG Group Healthy Living on Facebook is on.
It showed on the Facebook account. It showed in the listen.
All right.
Yeah, it's being shown now on the chat. Listen. Thank you very much. Okay. I think the Prophet, is there any other issue? I think we should now bring this to a healthy close. I'm really so grateful to all of you for participating. I will look forward to your joining next time.
I think
Because
we
too many.
want to join you in yeah, we want to once again thank all the participants for their participation. We want to also thank the moderator who did an excellent job, and for all the presenters made very beautiful and incisive presentations. So at this point, we can call it a day. This brings us to the end of HerbFest 2021. We shall continue to interact on the platform, Medicinal Plant Group platform, on issues pertaining to cultivation of medicinal plants. Thank you, distinguished participants. Have a nice day.
Same to you, Prof.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and have nice days. I love you.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Bye.